We good? I call the meeting to order. Good evening and welcome to the May 5th, 2026 business meeting of your Ashland City Council. Councilor Hanson will offer the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Nair. We acknowledge and honor the Aboriginal people on whose ancestral homelands we work, the Irukutsun Band of the Shasta Nation, as well as the diverse and vibrant Native communities who make up their home here today. We honor the first stewards of the Rogue Valley and the lands we love and depend on. Tribes with ancestral lands in and surrounding the geography of the Ashland watershed include the original past, present, and future indigenous inhabitants of the Shasta, Tequilma, and Athabascan people. We also recognize and acknowledge the Shasta village of Quacacá, where the Crow lights that is now the Ashland City Plaza.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Jordan.
Sherrill.
Here.
Dale.
Here.
Bloom.
Here.
Duquesne. Here. Hanson.
Here.
Kaplan.
Here.
And Mayor Graham.
Here. And so I think it may be pretty obvious, at least to everyone in the room, that Councilor Kaplan is joining us by Zoom. And so Jordan will help us know when he wants to speak, and we'll make sure she collects his votes. Moving on now to the mayor's announcements. The first is that if you have come to speak to the council this evening, the way that you do that is by taking one of the speaker sign-on forms up from the back wall there. Fill it out and please put it inside the tray right here by the recorder's desk. Please make sure that you both tell us what you are here to talk with us about in terms of the agenda item. If you are, and also if you are here to speak with us about something that is not on the agenda, please indicate that you are here for public forum. That's when we hear those items. Please make sure that your speaker request form has been put forward before the beginning of the agenda item so that we can manage the people who've come to speak to us appropriately and make sure we hear everyone. There is a slight agenda change order in that number 7B, which is listed under new business, the resolution 2026-06 endorsing the nomination of Census Tract 19 as an Opportunity Zone 2.0. That needs to be under ordinances, resolutions, and contracts, so that will move up in the agenda this evening. A couple of announcements in terms of things that are going on right now. We are now in May, which means we are getting very close to the beginning of the 2026 wildfire season. The city has put out quite a bit of information about our different responsibilities in terms of our yards and our homes and the different things that we will need to do in order to be prepared. If you've been watching these last couple of meetings, you'll also know that we are dealing with a very significant drought situation this year, and so it's particularly important that we are making sure that we're doing everything we can to keep our homes from being combustible in the event of a wildfire. So please check out those resources online. And then we have a proclamation this evening in honor of National Historic Preservation Month 2026. That is one of the other things that is going to be happening a little bit later on, the third week of May. There are a number of historic preservation activities around town. I encourage you to find out about those and join in. A proclamation in honor of National Historic Preservation Month 2026. Whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for managing growth, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability. Whereas the historic houses and buildings of Ashland help make our city unique and provide links with the city's founders and their descendants. Whereas these fine examples of 19th and 20th century buildings contribute to an appreciation of our heritage. Whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. Whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a people. Whereas National Historic Preservation Month is in May, Ashland has selected the week of May 17th to the 23rd as Historic Preservation Week. Ashland's celebrations are co-sponsored by the City of Ashland's Historic Preservation Advisory Committee and the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Now therefore, I, Tanya Graham, Mayor of the City of Ashland, Oregon, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2026 as National Historic Preservation Month and call upon the people of the City of Ashland to join their fellow citizens across the United States in recognizing and participating in this special observance. In Ashland, we are better together. All right, we are now to approval of minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes? Okay, the floor is open for a motion to approve the minutes. Councilor Bloom,
I move approval of the minutes.
Second?
roll call, please. Jordan?
Sherrill.
Yes.
Dale.
Yes.
Bloom.
Yes.
Duquesne.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Kaplan.
Yes.
Great. And we are now to the consent agenda. Would any counselor like to remove the item on the consent agenda? Councilor Duquesne, you would like to remove it?
Before we go to the consent agenda, I would like to add to the agenda per AMC 2.04.030, subsection C, an addition, adding the conversation, a discussion regarding City Hall.
So in order to put an agenda item on without notice, we need to, there needs to be a timeliness issue to it that I don't believe is met.
It's a continuation of what I thought we were going to continue to talk about from yesterday's meeting.
So we can put that on the future agenda. I think the council was anticipating doing that, but I don't believe it meets the requirements for adding an agenda item. Maybe our parliamentarian can help us.
No, you're correct. We didn't notice a discussion on City Hall.
Well, yesterday, I remember in discussion, it was brought up that it would be talked about at another meeting, and so it's not this meeting.
But it's not this meeting, that's right.
Okay.
But it will be noticed again. I think there are several City Hall conversations that are going to happen.
Okay, well, and then I'd also like to remove the consent agenda.
Okay, so what we will do is we will take that up again at the end of the evening. It'll be our last agenda item under new business.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, we move on now to special presentations. We have with us Jackson County Sexual Assault Response Team. Sabrina?
Yeah, so Jackson County SART has agreed to come here this evening. This is at the request of some counselors. SART works with us mostly with our police department. So I want to have Ava and any of her team come on down. We'll have you sit here at the dais, and I will let her introduce herself and all the good work that SART does.
Hi. So you'll push that button right in the front of your microphone, and then the red light will come on, and that'll let you know that you are live.
Great.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Can I just get a time check? How long feels appropriate for?
About 10 minutes, and then I'll leave 5 minutes for questions.
Perfect. Okay.
And if you can pull your microphone into you a little bit closer, that would be great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, I so appreciate the opportunity to meet with you all. My name is Ava DeRosier. I'm the Executive Director for Jackson County Sexual Assault Response Team. And, I think before we start, one thing that's important for us to understand about the work that SART does is we work in response and prevention to violence. And so some of what we talk about can be difficult. I'll be really conscientious about how I talk about the work we do, but for maybe those of you that weren't anticipating this, just take care of yourselves as we, have a really important conversation that I think needs to be had more often. So thank you so much for that. So SART was founded in 2004, really in response to a lack of resources for sexual assault survivors. A team of medical professionals, community members, law enforcement came together to create our kind of core program, which is forensic nursing. So for 22 years now, we've been providing medical care in our local hospitals for free for sexual assault and, as of recently, domestic violence survivors as well, which includes strangulation. I'll tell you a little bit more about that program. So we have kind of three main programs: medical response. We also have a team of confidential advocates. It's a tiny little team, but we have a team of folks who respond and also partner with Ashland Police Department, which I'll talk a bit more about. And then we also do prevention education in our local schools and in our community, which I'll tell you about as well. So as far as the forensic program, we are contracted with the Asante and Providence Hospital in Jackson and Josephine County to respond to survivors who need immediate medical care after an assault. This care is 100% free. And the reason why we're able to make it free is we have amazing community partners that are either community members, local foundations. We have other grantors, some federal money, a very small amount of federal money because quite a bit of it was cut this past fiscal year. But we're able to make sure that this type of response is free to survivors. And what that looks like for someone who goes into the hospital is a specially trained nurse who is going to address injuries through documentation. That documentation will include photography as well as written documentation and evidence collection, including DNA. If the person wants to engage law enforcement, they are able to at that time. We offer things like prophylaxis, emergency contraception, to take care of any kind of immediate medical needs that they might have in that regard as well. We connect them to confidential advocacy. There is an unbelievably powerful combination of there being a survivor who's experienced this type of harm and then them having access to confidential advocacy. So we partner with other advocacy agencies, or we respond as advocates as well. And then we also have some basic needs type things like toiletries and food and clothing that are available at the hospital as well. Asante provides us with a small grant to make sure those types of things are also stocked. Things like phones for emergencies, food cards, things of those natures. And our nurses did an expansion. We did an expansion back in 2025 because we were noticing how often sexual assault survivors would come in and they had also experienced strangulation. And there was a fund that the state of Oregon developed through a program called Crime Victims Compensation. It's called the SAVES Fund, so that these could be free to folks, in addition to sexual assault exams, so SANE exams, which are also meant to be free in the state of Oregon to survivors. So the hospitals can get a small reimbursement, they give us a small reimbursement, and then mostly we fundraise to make sure that we can provide this 24 hours a day in 2 counties. So a nurse will respond within an hour. That's what our contract is with the hospitals, and usually sooner, so that someone doesn't have to wait in the waiting room or wait, for medical care. They're able to get back to a room and receive the care that they need as soon as possible. We have, so confidential advocates are different than mandatory reporters. We work to help connect folks to the support and resources that they might need, but work within those systems with them. So whether that means someone might need accompaniment to some type of, they need legal support, they have appointments that they're attending, they've decided to report to law enforcement and they want an advocate there with them. We may also work with many other community partners. And some of those for us in our community are people like Aura. We work with the street nursing team really closely. We work very closely with Access and the ARC, places like Options and On Track, Community Works, Women's Crisis Support Team, the Family Nurturing Center, Maslow Project. So those organizations in our community who are helping kind of bridge bridge a gap in some type of resource, we partner very closely with them as we support survivors, because oftentimes there are many co-occurring needs. And then we work with our Ashland Police Department with a program called You Have Options. Has anyone heard of that? Do you all know about this program? It's a nationally recognized program that allows for survivors of sexual assault specifically to have more power and agency in how they choose to move through the reporting process. So for them, that means that they can report anonymously, right? Someone can report and decide that they want nothing to be done, but that at least the law enforcement agency or Ashland law enforcement has the information about the situation or the perpetrator, right? So there's going to be a higher level of accountability that's there. Someone can start the process, maybe start the investigation and decide to stop, and they will respect that for them. So there are programs across the country that do something similar, but Ashland truly sets a standard and a precedent around giving power back to survivors who have had something taken from them. I have seen some of the most amazing things happen with our law enforcement officers here when they are responding to sexual assault survivors specifically. And then in terms of prevention, so there is a law in Oregon called Aaron's Law, and it is part of the health standards. It requires that schools provide child abuse prevention education from ages kindergarten through 12th grade. And so since 2015, Jackson County SART has been partnering with local schools to ensure that they are doing something called primary prevention, which is really looking at the root causes of violence. So it's not just risk reduction, right? And we know what that kind of looks like. It's like how to not be harmed. But really what we need is to look at the conditions that exist in our culture and the cultural norms and kind of problematic ways that we function as a community that actually uphold violence. So things like centering consent and understanding, setting boundaries and respecting another individual for who and how they are, regardless if we agree with them, if they're similar to us, right? That there are all these things that children really need to be understanding and learning from a young age so that as we grow into, hopefully responsible citizens, we understand how to treat other human beings, that we don't have the right to harm another person, and that if something happens to us, where a boundary or someone has done something to us, that we know it's okay to ask for help, right? So we teach in every Ashland school, every Ashland public school, and we're in every single classroom multiple times a year. So this is a program, because it's difficult to fund prevention, that we struggle to fund at times. We use really flexible funding to be able to go into the classrooms, but we're working on what that might look like, especially as additional federal funds get cut from organizations that do domestic violence and sexual assault work. So we also do some work in our community with businesses and bars, and this is actually, Councilor Kaplan and I talked a bit about this. So we do some work with bars specifically around identifying alcohol-facilitated perpetration. Because we work with survivors, we know in our community the places where perpetrators go and intentionally use alcohol as a tool to facilitate sexual assault is a very common way that this type of harm happens in our community. So we go out and we work with bars and we help them understand how they can build in some protective factors in those environments so that that establishment or the patrons that go there are not as vulnerable in those spaces, right? We also help businesses look at things like their harassment policies, how people do report if something happens internally. And we work with large organizations like the YMCA and the co-op and places like that to try to help just create more supportive environments, within Ashland and beyond. There's a couple of things that the city council, I think, can do, that we can do as a community. The greatest need that we have for survivors is housing. It's just always housing. And we know that it's such a need in general, but I'll give you one example. When we had the 2200 building open, every Friday I would go there and I could provide some advocacy for the individuals who were formerly on the night lawn. They had some basic needs met in that space. And so it was much easier for me to move them from where they were, potentially in crisis, to more stability. So anything that we can do to help support with housing initiatives in our community will directly impact lowering rates of violence, which we don't always correlate those things, right? Sometimes we can't always see the connection there. The other thing that I think our city can do better or differently is to look at, I mentioned that piece around bars serving alcohol, that if we could have a different kind of accountability in those spaces where maybe there was some training or, whether it's SARD or some other way that we can bring in additional training in those environments so that we create just a safer culture, more of a consent culture in our community. That would make a huge impact. If we were to change something like that, I've tried to work with the OLCC on that, and what they recommended actually is that maybe the city itself would take responsibility, that the licenses that businesses have to obtain, that there could be a connection there actually between some additional training for them to have their business license. And that, something like that is really easily achievable and would make a huge impact. And then the last thing I'll say, and then you can ask questions, and thank you so much for listening, is just really anything that we can do to help address inequities in our community, whether it has to do with food insecurity or housing. If we're taking initiatives like, becoming a community of belonging, we're looking at, racial justice and, aspects around accessibility, right? Even for, our roadways and our sidewalks, things like that we don't always understand, that if there are places where individuals in our community are lacking the resources or the supports that they need, they're more vulnerable. And the direct correlation to that is that they are going to experience more violence. That's how violence is upheld. So the city can do work to really look at those places, and then we will all be doing a better job to create a more safe and supportive community for everyone. Yes, that's all I have for now, and happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Questions or thoughts? Councilor Hanson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't know that your organization existed, and I'm sure glad it does.
Thanks.
I'm curious. In my trade, we watch a lot of videos for OSHA type compliance, and I don't know if that kind of training that you were referring to that might be required for an OLCC license.
Yeah.
Is that something that is available on a video for, like, do this video, check the box, submit your certification, and then you've met another condition for the license?
So OLCC specifically, that it does not include. I mean, they do talk about not over-serving, but they don't actually talk about like pieces around safety. That's and how individuals might manipulate an environment like that to cause harm. So there is an organization called like the Safe Bar Alliance, and they do some work in that capacity. But I do think that there's a way that we could create like a curriculum. We have a training that we do that's 1 hour long, go into bars, and usually we'll do multiple with their leadership and their staff. And we do them every year. And there's actually several bars in our community that in their bathroom has something on their bathroom stall that says, "We care about your safety. Our staff here has been trained to identify and support individuals who might, need a specific kind of support. Please talk to us. We want to help." And then it has our contact information there as well. So I think there's an easy way that we could put something into place to address that, and maybe utilize another organization like the Safe Bar Alliance or do it ourselves.
Well, thanks for bringing it up. I hope
Yeah.
we can help.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Counselor Bloom?
Yes, hi, thank you
Hi.
for the powerful work you do.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I can't even imagine what you do. And so I wanted to say thank you. And I would be very much in support of this council adding a requirement for LCC licenses in Ashland to do required training. And I think it would be helpful to mandate in-person training. Somebody, I bartend, and getting my LCC license, it's very easy to just put a video on the background and kind of go past. And I think it's something that should be much more forward-facing. And so I would love to see maybe something like that come over to us if we can get that on an agenda in the future soon. And further, please apply for our social services grants. And, maybe this is a way that we could help not only the work that you're doing funding-wise, but that would help, maybe ease the burden for some of these restaurants and bars in terms of the cost of said training. So
Thanks.
that's it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you.
Okay. Counselor Kaplan?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Thank you so much, Ava. I've been a huge fan of SART and of you as well personally for several years. I think you do such important work in the community. I've got just 2 points I guess I would like to make. One is I think the comments that you made about the ability to use 2200 in a very creative and important way to provide services to folks who had previously been on the night long this past winter is an important pointer, I think, to some of the ways that I'm hoping that this council later in this meeting will approve use of 2200. I think SART would be a good candidate for providing services there long term. That's one point. The other point on this question of requirements for OLCC license, I'd like to see if we can, I agree with Councillor Bloom, I'd like to see this come forward. I'm wondering what would be the process for bringing something thoughtful together in an alliance perhaps with some of the bar owners, with SART, and some staff, I suppose, who would put it forward on this council so that we can consider it. I think there is clearly a need there, and I'm sure there are a lot of considerations that we'd want to make sure are taken into account. I think it's really important to get the bar owners on board with this, and I think, as you've already said, some of the bar owners or the managers are very much on board already, so I'd like to see that go forward.
So Sabrina, what would that look like? I know that there's quite a bit of interest, I expect, from the expressions I'm seeing. I certainly am interested in that. So what would that look like in terms of a process?
I think staff would need to speak with Ava about a process and who she would recommend potentially partnering with in terms of the bar owners. I think she would probably have the best idea, better than we would. And then we would work with legal to make sure there's no restrictions around that in terms of licensing, and then bring something forward.
Okay. So is the council in agreement that we should direct staff to investigate the possibility or what a program would look like to require this sort of training for Oregon liquor control licenses? Yes. Okay. So Sabrina, do you need any other details? Okay.
Just off the top of my head, it may be more clear direction to just do business licenses, because I don't know that we can actually alter the OLCC licensing. And I know that the city administers those, but I think we just essentially hand it out. But so through the business licensing, we could talk to the chamber too, but just a thought.
So Ava, are you thinking OLCC licenses or general business licenses?
So I think, so my initial thought was to go OLCC, but they recommended talk to the city
About
and
business
have,
license.
and maybe there's a way that it can be contingent on their business license, or, as part, if they are an OLCC licensed establishment, that there would be a requirement they do an additional training that's through the city.
To get their business license and to
Exactly.
keep and maintain that. Okay, that's helpful. I know we have an authorization at the council level for business licenses as well, so I was wondering how that would work. So that is, just to clarify then, we're looking at the business license element. Okay. Councillor Duquesne.
Thank you. And thank you, Johan. We could just keep it simple and include everything. Ava, it's so nice to see you there.
too. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. SART has been in the community. I've had opportunity to work with you on many different levels, and I'm grateful for that, and I'm happy to see you in this position.
Thank you.
Your presentation was very informative, and I'm glad you're here so that people know SART is here, because SART has shown up at the Pride Parade forever, and you're everywhere sharing the word. My question is, in the presentation and you were talking about people, survivors who have been assaulted and abused. Do you work with men also?
We do. Yeah, any gender. And for confidential advocacy, really any age, as long as the person can consent. And then for medical care at the hospitals specifically, it's age 15 and up. The Children's Advocacy Center does exams for 14 and under, but SART does exams for age 15 and up. So yes, any gender, we work with anyone who needs support.
Thank you, Ava. Keep
You're
up the
welcome.
good work.
Thanks, girl.
Councillor Dale.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Ava. I know folks in your line of work and those familiar with this are very familiar with the appalling statistics at which this affects people's lives and the overwhelming minority of folks that it doesn't. And so I am absolutely 100% wholeheartedly in support of what this council is pursuing, and thank you for bringing that to us. And a very, very heartfelt thank you for all of the work that you do that is so incredibly important.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very kind. Councillor Sherrill.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't really know how to follow that, but just thank you so much for your service. Thank you. Thank you.
So Ava, it's great to see you.
Yeah, you too.
And I've been an admirer from afar of your good work and the work of your team, but I didn't know the details so much until this evening. So I so appreciate you sharing that with the council and with the larger community. I think it would be impossible to overstate the importance of this work, not only for the people who are experiencing assault in the moment now, but also for the work that you do with the children, because we know that that's what leads to these. It doesn't just come out of the blue with an adult. There are things that happen leading up to that space. There are thoughts in the culture that allow for that type of thing to happen. And so getting to children when they are forming their thoughts about what they are able to do and how to be a responsible person is so critically important. I love that it is coming from both sides. I know that it is often the case that police officers and people who are sort of in those official capacities, that there are places that are just very difficult for them to go. They're not only are they not trained, but they're in a uniform, and there's just all sorts of things that can get in the way. And so having not only SART, but other organizations that come in alongside our officers and our first responders to help really is what allows us to provide the level of service that we aim to provide here in Ashland. So thank you so much. And we will take up this suggestion of yours. And if you have other thoughts about how the city might be able to assist in your work, please do bring them forward.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and I'll just say one last thing, that I think there's a lot we could do together, really, because you all are leaders in this community and you make a huge impact on every single person that lives here. And I think education and really working together and having initiatives that really center the well-being of this community, but with the understanding that there is harm happening. We often don't know about that and see it because people don't report. Maybe they don't come forward, but you all having awareness about that and us, making decisions and taking action and creating initiatives and opportunities as a collective will help change that, right? It trickles down. So I would love to continue the conversation and really grateful for your support. So thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we have. Okay, we are now to public forum. We have 15 minutes scheduled for public forum. We have 9 people who have signed up this evening to speak to us. So we're going to give everyone 2 minutes on the clock. And the way that this works is you'll come up to the podium here. You will start your 2 minutes by telling us your name and the city in which you reside, and then you'll have 2 minutes to share your thoughts with the council. The clock will keep your time as well as the visual monitor that is on the podium. So as long as it looks green, you have plenty of time. When it turns to yellow, you'll hear the first buzzer, and that's the indication that you have 20 seconds left and to start wrapping it up. When you hear the second buzzer and the light turns to, oh, thank you, see, it was an example. When the light turns to red and you hear that second buzzer, that means that your time is done, at which point we ask that you finish the sentence you are on and move on so that we can hear from the next person. Feel free to line up along the wall. If you would like, I'll call out a couple of people in the order that we'll hear them, and that will help us move along as quickly as we can. Also, if you have any mobility issues and you need the microphone brought to you, please just raise your hand when I get to your name, and we will bring the microphone to you. And lastly, I just want to make sure that everyone understands that our council rules are such that we are not able to interact and ask questions of the people who come to us here. So if you would like to carry on a conversation beyond public forum, please do reach out to us by email. But just so that you know that we are not able to engage in a back and forth discussion or to ask questions during public forum. So we'll start with Linda Adams, then we have Paul Mozina, Letta Shapiro, and William Zentner.
Linda Adams, I live down Oak Street. In Ashland, we again are seeing a dangerous confusion between genuine transparency and digital grandstanding. When councilors use social media to bypass the deliberative process, framing critiques of city institutions as honesty or satire, they prioritize personal branding over the collective labor of governing. This isn't transparency, it is a retreat into individualism. Social media conversations are a convenient fiction. True transparency is found in budget data, public meetings, and recorded votes, not viral takes. Using a platform to blame others for structural failures swaps the hard evidence of staff reports for the emotional resonance of a post. It validates a counselor's image, but does nothing to illuminate a path to a collective solution. Fixing Ashland's challenges requires bridge building and priority forming and consensus, tasks that happen in study sessions, not comment sections. When a counselor speaks as a lone individual to assign blame, they effectively abandon the days. This replaces a problem solving with a hunt for scapegoats. Using a social platform to blame others for structural failures is performative, not productive. This cycle is fueled by public engagement, most recently the Kata Gotta Go effort. This movement to railroad the city manager is an exercise in administrative idiocy. To scapegoat one administrator for long-standing structural issues is a reactionary distraction that destroys institutional stability. When the public joins this chorus of blame, they aren't fixing the city, they are breaking the machinery that makes progress possible. The propriety of this council rests on being a legislative body, not a collection of independent influencers. We must stop rewarding the divisive theater of the individual. True leadership in Ashland is not found in casting stones from a digital distance.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Paul Mozina from Ashland. I was surprised when Bob Kaplan offered an amendment to the Avista franchise during your April 21st business meeting. According to an email I got from the city attorney, motions and votes aren't necessary for the council to make decisions and take actions. All that is needed is discussion. The city attorney claimed that Oregon budget law permitted the council to amend the 2025-2027 biennial budget at a study session without a motion or vote and prior to the public hearing on the budget. I pointed out that he was wrong, and this bothered Dylan Bloom so much. To set the record straight and address the misinformation he accused me of spreading, he asked Mr. Pitella to read his email into the record at your August 18, 2025 meeting. The legal arguments Pitella made in his email were in fact a confession that the City Council violated Oregon revised statutes and the Ashland Charter. On April 13, 2026, Ashland received a reprimand from the Oregon Department of Revenue, which proved that it was Bloom and Pitella who were spreading misinformation, not me. The Oregon Department of Revenue confirmed that the council violated Oregon budget law when it amended the 2025-2027 biennial budget prior to the public hearing. The DOR reminded Ashland that they could only amend the budget after the public hearing, and this would require a public motion and a vote. This is what the council should have done on June 3rd, 2025, but it did not. You amended your budget at the May 19th study session without a motion or vote. At your June 3rd, 2025 business meeting, when the budget item came up, Deputy Administrator Jordan Rucklin falsely claimed that the council had amended the budget via motion. You all knew this was false, yet not one of you corrected her. This is not merely a procedural error. The council created a false record of its actions, violated the Oregon budget law, violated the Ashland Charter, and you all violated your oath of office by willingly and knowingly participating in this fraud.
Thank you. Letta Shapiro, followed by William Zentner, Jeannie Martin, and Avram Sachs.
Lita Shapiro, Ashland. I'm pleased that last night's meeting included a good discussion and hopefully the end of the discussion about the admin campus. The rest of what I have to say, I want to preface by saying it is not easy to speak of this way, the way what Linda was talking about. This is not a simple thing. I wish to speak about what I see as the primary reason we are in this mess. It is directly due to the city manager, Sabrina Cotter, overstepping her authority again and again, taking a series of actions that I believe exceed her authority as city manager. She has violated financial and budget procedures, state budget law, council policies, overstepped her authority with unilateral decisions, with violating grant requirements and improperly approving the budget. She falsely stated that the salary increases proposed in June of last year were included in the budget. She falsely stated that the fees added to the utility bills were needed to avoid service reduction, and then the cuts were made anyway. She has hidden information from the public and from council. She has now once more exceeded her authority by moving staff out of City Hall into the community center, which still hadn't opened to the public. Then, after being told very directly by council to remove staff from the community center, she purposely delayed and disregarded council's direct request. I believe this insubordination is the final action in more than a year of separate actions that is destructive to the fabric of our city government, to the council's authority, and the city's best interest. I believe the time has come to ask for an executive session in order to place the city manager on administrative leave and investigate her mismanagement with the possibility of dismissal for cause.
Thank you. William Zentner, Jeannie Martin, Avram Sachs, and Kate Hartzell.
Hi, my name is William Zentner, and I want to speak briefly on glyphosate, which is still being sprayed in the city. Even though this has been brought to the attention of the City Council many times, including by myself. Tomorrow, it will be sprayed out in front of City Hall, adjacent to the night lawn, and across the street from a public park, which is a main use by children. And this is a deadly poison. It's a long-term effect poison. People come down with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I had a friend of mine die of that. He'd been spraying it for 30 years, okay? So I'd like to see the city council take this seriously and at least address it or do something about it, because you're spraying poison. And if you don't like the weeds, tear out the ground and put in concrete, something different. but look at all alternative means of controlling the weed population. I have a friend of mine who's here tonight who was weeding out here in hopes of maybe averting the spraying process. It probably won't, but hopefully it will. There might be other people, including myself, that would be happy to weed. I know the Parks and Rec employs volunteers, and weeding could be, maybe if enough people are interested, could be a weeding project. So thank you, and good evening.
Thank you. Jeannie Martin?
Hi, I'm Jeannie Martin. I lived on the Night Lawn. I also resided at ORA. I am clean and sober 2 years, yay. Side note, wrong meeting. I got raped and pillaged out on the Night Lawn. I take all of the women daily who come up to me and tell me that the police will not listen to what is happening to the women. I know because I went and found Ava at my church because I was on the Night Lawn and got victimized because I had to go see a man about a tent. I saw way too much mad about a tent. And couldn't get away from that, didn't have a tent, so I walked all night and couldn't get away from the police. I went back to the lawn and had done my time or whatever. Now they see me like a lighthouse, and while Ava's at all the high schools teaching all your future non-rapists, I have to listen to the victims and the survivors all day long at the library and in the streets because the police won't. I tried to report a rape that was happened out in public in front of the Night Lawn. We pursued the rapist. The woman was in her bra and underwear. I informed Officer Harris. She said, "No victim, no crime," and drove away. I went back to my church. It was a Sunday. I cried, reported it to my minister and to Ava, and now she's been kind of full front as far as trying to be involved in the homeless. But I'm sure you guys have a golden record of rapes that are being reported and looked into, but not the ones that aren't being reported. And there is plenty of victims and survivors out here that would really like to talk to somebody about their mental health. Thank you.
Thank you. Avram Sachs, Kate Hartzell, Debbie Neiswander, and Sharon Bryson.
Yeah, I came to talk about the spray issue, but I just have to say that I do know personally a homeless woman who was raped on the Night Lawn and hasn't gotten help. It's a serious issue, and I hope that something's going to be done to protect these women. I was shocked to come today. I helped with serving food. I helped coordinate the food for the people on the Night Lawn. And I was shocked to see signs on the median grass right across from where we serve food that it's going to be sprayed. People have worked really hard, and we work hard not to have people eating on the Night Lawn because we're trying to get rid of the rats, which it seems like we've been pretty successful at in the last year. So there's not enough room for 40 people to sit at the picnic table. People sit on those grassy strips that are now going to be sprayed with a poisonous substance tomorrow morning. I'm sure a lot of the people in that land would be more than happy to weed those areas. In fact, we're working on a project to do a cleanup in the neighborhood with half people from the Night Lawn and half people from the Garfield Park neighborhood so they can start to get to know each other. This could be another project for the neighborhood because I guarantee the neighbors don't want their children going where Roundup's being sprayed. And I wouldn't want it being sprayed in my front yard, and this is their front yard. So I don't understand why it's happening. So if there's anything that can be done, I know it's tomorrow, it's short notice, but I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Kate Hartzell, Ashland resident, speaking for myself. We found out yesterday about the spray, and I sent emails to you all and the Parks Commissioners and the interim director asking all of you to use your authority to stop the spray. I remember when the water sprinklers were turned on in the night lawn, and that was kind of a bad public relations event. This will be way worse, and it's not needed. We don't need to have it happen. So I'm here to ask you, you have 12 hours, whatever, to turn it off and explore other alternatives. The reason to explore other alternatives is your own policy. So Chapter 9 of AMC 9.28 guides the city and thereby the parks staff on how to evaluate and treat things deemed as weeds. That policy is not being followed in this situation. I hope I explained all of it in the email, and I'm happy to take any phone calls to explain in more depth, but it's not that complicated. One of the things that I mentioned had to do with disabilities. I've submitted a form on behalf of someone who is right now camping on the night lawn who has medical condition. He's requesting an ADA accommodation to be moved off of this area while, if spray does happen, off the few nights after that to protect his medical condition. Please respond to that. I did ask Ms. Cotta for an accommodation last year and never heard, well, I did hear back that, but it was not a legal response. So again, it's being violated. I'm asking to stop it and then evaluate that pesticide policy because it does need to be changed. I was told tonight that the parks doesn't exist. The Parks Department is part of the city now, and they can't make a decision independently to stop this. I'm calling on you to direct your staff member to stop it. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie Nicewander, followed by Sharon Bryson and John Maurer.
Hello, Debbie Nicewander. And yeah, it was really freaky to see the sign out on the lawn. And a lot of folks on the lawn are very upset over it. A lot of them have asthma, breathing conditions, and so on. The dogs are actually fed in the front part. That's where they feed them because we don't want dog food on the lawn. And the people sit there and they eat. I have a hoe and rakes in my car. And you know, even folks who have to do community service for Parks and Recs, so you can come out there and we can do it in a day and get rid of those weeds. I thought the spraying was because of the safety factor for employees in our arterial streets. So I don't understand why it got to this. So I'm hoping that we can put it off. I did talk to them about wind conditions today. I went in, and if it's not windy, they said they'll postpone it. But I think we just need to give up the idea. Secondly, I want to give a shout out to Ava and Sart, man. She is awesome. I don't know what I would do without her. I've had to call her so many times, and I'm glad that you all are finally hearing what problems really exist out there in our houseless community. Sometimes we just focus on the crime and what they do and all their bad deeds, but we forget that they are victimized by crime more than you would ever imagine. So thank you, Ava. I love you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Hi, Sharon Bryson. I live in Ashland. I don't really want to repeat everybody, but I would like to recall to the legal, as well as the city manager, that pesticide policy 928 is intended to reduce or eliminate pesticide use in our community. And what I've got here, and I'm more than happy to sit down with anybody that wants to sit down with me and go over 3 years of spray reports. And I will let you know that from 2023, 24, and 25, 25 has tripled the amount of spray in our community. And it's not just the medians. I was under the impression that this body was voting on a new policy due to the medians. We've got a map that is this stuff is getting sprayed all over the place. It's getting sprayed on frequently pedestrian territory. I walk my dogs I'm feeling like I need to get boots because I don't trust anything here. You have the ability to stop this tonight. You heard plenty of us are willing to weed. Let us do it. Keep your poison to yourself. I was out there weeding today. I was one of those. You would not believe the amount of ladybugs I see. Ladybugs probably don't mean rat's pubic hair to you guys. Ladybugs are important.
Into the microphone to let everybody hear you.
Yeah, well, anyway, I just heard this really cool joke recently. It's like, I'm not an a-hole, I'm more like a hemorrhoid. So what I do is I irritate a-holes, and that's what I'm here to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. John Maurer.
Good evening, John Maurer, 50 years, orthopedic surgeon here in town. Just to give you a little update on what's happening with healthcare. Johan, on the 9th of May, the hospital will be in default. It will no longer be a general hospital. The birthing center will be gone. That sets in motion a violation and default of our agreement. You know that, just passing it on. We're all watching your next move. If you didn't get the message, it may not have come to City Council, but it was sent to all the employees of Asante confirming, actually I applaud them, it's really the first truly transparent bit of news we've gotten from Asante, and that is that they're in all the deep trouble that we thought they were. They'd probably be $50 million under budget by the end of the year, lost $12 million just in March, so it doesn't look good. I want them to survive. We all want them to survive. What we need to pay attention to is what's going to happen to us if they don't, and we need to be prepared. We need to be a survivor. We need to be adapting to the changing climate, okay? That's what survivors do. It's all on you. You got to be paying attention. Your plate is full. I hear it every time I've been down here. I'm impressed with all you do, but don't let this slip by. As obviously, this is huge. As you know, the coalition is gathering petitions. Hopefully we'll have 10,000 of them to save our hospital. Interestingly, I was doing that while I was having my blood taken at the lab today, and I was asked to leave the hospital for having some of my former colleagues sign the petition. We'll go into that I'll get permission from the folks over at Asante, but it was a little embarrassing to be escorted off the place. Anyway, pay attention. Things are picking up. And as of the 9th of May, Johan, we need to start filing some papers. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, we are now to ordinances, resolutions, and contracts. This is where we will pick up 7B, which is currently listed under new business. So resolution 2026-06, endorsing the nomination of Census Tract 19 as an Opportunity Zone 2.0.
Mayor, point of information. I just have a question for the city manager. Are you interested in holding off on the spraying outside the night lawn?
Counselor, this would come up at the end of the evening. That's when we would have any other discussions.
So point of information, I'm allowed to make that.
Go ahead.
So tonight, I'm going to have the Deputy City Manager introduce the representatives from So Ready, but we are looking to partner with them in support of nomination of one of our census tracts for a designation, of a federal opportunity zone under a newly extended and revised Opportunity Zone 2.0 program. So with that, I'm going to hand it over.
Hello, City Council. Good evening. I am here and happy to introduce Blair Sundell, the Executive Director of So Ready, our regional economic development organization. We have an opportunity for nominating a certain geography in Ashland for a opportunity zone, which is an opportunity every 10 years and has some really great benefits that can really draw some private dollars to our community for development. Blair is here tonight not only as a more expert than I am in this topic area, but So Ready is going to be doing a lot of the support and helping prepare and submit an application for City of Ashland, should the City Council so choose to endorse the census tract that we have. So with that, I will hand it over to Blair. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Mayor and council members, thank you for having me here today. Again, Blair Sundell with So Ready, the Economic Development District for Jackson and Josephine counties. Happy to be here today to talk to you a little bit about the Opportunity Zone 2.0 program and the census tract that we are working on preparing for nomination with your consent. Just, go to the next slide. There we go. So in your packet here, you can see in the very beginning, we talk about what this program is. It is a federal capital gains deferral program designed to get money off the sidelines and into low-income census tracts to hopefully over that 10-year period have enough improvement in the area that what it does is it lifts that census tract out of the poverty level that it is currently in. The eligible census tracts are determined by being either 70% of median family income or below, or have a poverty rate of 20% or higher, and then no greater of median family income of 125%. So it's designed based on the lowest census income, the census tracts, lowest income census tracts in the state, of which there are 229. Ashland has 2. One of them has significant investment potential that could be used. And before I get into that, though, I do want to talk about the fact that the Enterprise Zone and Opportunity Zone programs sound similar, but they are very different. So Enterprise Zones are a property tax abatement program, kicks taxes out for 3 to 5 years, the real estate taxes that would be received by the city. So already does administer all 4 zones in Southern Oregon. I'm a little split on the program myself, just because I know that communities do need that tax revenue to provide services to their communities. Opportunity Zones does not do that on the local level. So this, again, being a federal capital gains deferral strategy, does not put any kind of tax abatement at the feet of the city. So the goal here is to grow the property tax base, take capital that is on the sidelines, both here in the region and nationally, and bring it into the low-income census tract to improve its position and make projects happen that otherwise wouldn't, because they lack capital. A lot of projects that we see in Southern Oregon are good projects. They come off the shelf and we try to get capital and we cannot quite get there, and so they go back on the shelf. One of the primary things that the Opportunity Zones program supports is housing. And as we all know, housing, especially in the workforce housing segment here in Ashland, are prime projects that we would like to see come online, as well as the fact that SOU has its 2 primary projects in the Opportunity Zone, or I should say the eligible census tract as well. And that could significantly help diversify revenue for the college. The census tract that we're talking about right here is roughly bordered by East Main Street, Walker Avenue, Emma Street, and Hellman of the Beach Street area. So you can see here, Siskiyou Boulevard runs right in the middle of it. SOU's projects are seen in on the right side, and then the Cascade campus down there toward the bottom. There are also Sunstone, which is the 90-plus unit development, is up in the upper left-hand corner there. And then there are some other development opportunities within the census tract as well. So as I mentioned, the Cascade site, this was the elder care facility that SOU was working on, had out for RFP, as well as the mixed use facility down near the Green Springs dorms, and then the Sunstone Housing Collaborative, which is the 90 units. So Ready and RV Cog are also providing support on that project for 4 different feasibility studies that they're required to perform. One of the things that's really important about this census tract is that under the 2.0 program, there is a 30% step-up basis in the capital gain. So let's say somebody had $1 million of capital gains they were putting into the zone. After 5 years, they actually would only be taxed on $700,000 of those gains with that 30% step-up. That's unique to rural census tracts, and this is the one here in Southern Oregon, the one census tract that actually qualifies as rural, which will hopefully bring more investment into this census tract, as opposed to some of the other urban census tracts that only receive a 10% step-up basis. So that's a particular competitive advantage that this one would have versus others that are in the region. I will say that from the very beginning of the program rolling out, I've gone all throughout the region to help each community understand what census tracts they have that are eligible. There were 13 throughout the region to begin with. And then identify with property owners, investors, and city staff, which we've worked closely with the city here, to identify the development potential within those tracts, because only 58 are ultimately going to get included in the new map. So out of 229, 25% will make it. And so it's important for communities to understand what the highest and best development potential is going to be for their community. And this is the reason why the other census tract that Ashland has that's north of it was not one that we were asking for consideration because of the lack of development potential that could happen there. So this also leads to why we are only supporting this one and a couple of them that Medford has. Grants Pass has one as well that is in like their Fruitdale area, but there's just no development potential there. And communities might want to just nominate everything that they have, but if they do that, we start in the same position we were in the beginning, which is the governor is looking at 229 census tracts. And then she's just deciding which one she thinks is best based on what available data she has. So the entire region understands that this is an incredibly high priority census tract, also that every community in Southern Oregon supports this census tract. And so far I've got support from both the Ashland Chamber of Commerce, you also talked with, the Medford Chamber of Commerce, Representative Marsh, Senator Golden, and hoping for Congressman Bentz's support as well. And then Commissioner Dyer has also provided support. So we've got a lot of backing behind this particular census tract for you. A success story of how this works. So the first program came around in 2017. It was launched in 2018. Erie, Pennsylvania was probably one of the best examples of how this program was used successfully. That was the poorest zip code in all of Pennsylvania. And before the program came online, they developed a corporation that would go out and attract national capital. They had an insurance company that provided some regional capital in order to catalyze investment in their city. They revitalized 8 downtown buildings. They built 150,000 square feet of commercial space, 110 homes, and then created 250 jobs, 25 businesses, and it was an incredible success that's been cited by Congress, HUD, and others as a use of the program that actually turned a community around. It's not that Ashland needs turning around, but there are some specific things that I think really are important for us. I talked on them with SOU and the housing need here. And as far as regional capital goes, I've already been working with several investors around the area, and there's about $5 million worth of regional capital here locally, local investors that would be interested in exploring investing in some of these projects you have here in Ashland. That provides the catalyst for additional national capital to come in as well. They like to see that people regionally here are also invested in their community. The process right now, we're at the nomination process. If we get this census tract nominated, then the next thing that we will start doing is creating a prospectus for the city for this census tract and then for the region, and then go out and start trying to attract investors to invest in some of these projects. As we know, which is public, SOU was moving forward with a partner on the Cascade project, and then that fell apart. Hopefully this type of program here could help something like that actually come together. That's the difference that this can make. So we are asking 2 things today, which is that the council pass a resolution that endorses SOREDI's nomination of this census tract, and then formally ask for the council's support, such as the other bodies have done already, and then ask for the mayor to provide her support as well. That is our ask. With that, I do also have, I'm open for questions. I also did prepare frequently asked question sheets for each of you if you would like them, just because there's a lot of information to the program and they're designed for probably what would be council's interest. So Jordan, you can have those if you'd like.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you, Jordan.
Yeah.
So questions? Councilor Dale.
Thank you, Mayor. Blair, welcome. Thank you so much. It's good to finally meet you. This is awesome.
You too.
A quick little, just for those following at home, this is outstanding. I have a couple questions, but just a quick little typo in there we might want to fix because it is back on the slide where you had the tract. I think you meant Henry Street instead of Hellman. I just didn't want to get people excited outside of that tract right there where it says west.
My apologies.
Yeah, no problem. I just want to make sure that when this gets put into the record that everybody's all on the same page. But much more importantly, I guess this question is for both you, Jordan, it's for you too, and Serena, feel free to chime in, please. But so this looks outstanding. So I just have to ask the question of are there any opportunity costs, trade-offs, things we need to think about relative to this? Or is this just one of those rare things that comes along that's all wonderful, not bad? So could you help us on that and just make a most informed decision possible?
Yeah, and I'll go first and I'll let Blair correct me where I go wrong. Looking at examples from this first round of Opportunity Zone, the benefit you get out of it is really based off the energy you put into it. And so the opportunity cost is if we get nominated, we are going to want to make sure that Ashland has a lot of swing behind it to make sure we can go out and get those investors to help those shovels break the grounds. I have been working really closely with Blair and the putting the application together for this. And this is the second big thing, is that this is a competitive program. I pretty much guarantee that 90% of the cities with an eligible census tract will be applying. And so our focus on this very short runway until May 2022 is to put together the best application out there, which the cost is going to be really largely my staff time, and as I work with community development and public works and working to get all these outside organizations to endorse. The other thing to be aware with Opportunity Zone, where this first round has been most successful has been in market rate housing. That is where we saw most of the growth happen under Opportunity Zone 1.0. And so that's just an awareness that it's not built as an affordable housing tool. It is often built as a housing tool. And I know the priority for the city and the council has largely been affordable housing. So just to be aware of that as a likely outcome.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor, for the question. I would add exactly to what Jordan said there as far as what that opportunity is. It doesn't just stop right now. It's competitive to get a census tract nominated, but then it's also competitive for capital. So there are fund managers that are out there looking for census tracts to invest their people's money into, and it's a matter of saying, hey, we've got something really attractive over here we would really like you to look at. This is worth your investment. And so that is an area that takes leadership all around. But it's also something that I think SoReady is uniquely positioned to lead. And so we are going to be dedicating resources to making sure that we can go out and actively market the opportunities that pop up here. And then we'll continue to work in tandem with the city and with developers and with property owners to make sure that we can truly package and market this, because that's exactly what Erie, Pennsylvania did. They got together, it's kind of hard because you've got, you've got property owners and you've got investors and you've got the city, and to get everybody on the same page with what kind of a development plan makes sense can be difficult. So we're going to be looking for support and coordination around that. But that is what made that difference for a lot of communities that had traction in the 1.0 program. We didn't have a lot of traction down here. There were no census tracts that were designated in Ashland last time around, but even just in Oregon and Southern Oregon, period, there wasn't a lot of activity around it. It was one of those programs that got propped up. Census tracts got nominated, actually generally through Business Oregon and I believe the regional solutions coordinator at the time for the governor. And that was it. They kind of just sat there on the shelf. So already had a perfect opportunity to get out there and market that. And, that's something I want to make sure we do effectively this time. What was the second part of your question?
I think you answered it.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Blair. I really appreciate that and appreciate all of the work and the prioritization on behalf of SoReady, and looking forward to partnering with it because this is outstanding. Thank you, Jordan, too.
Councilor Hanson.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, welcome, Blair. We appreciate you coming down here to speak with us. And for those that don't know, we are members of SoReady. We pay dues, and you're representing us and delivering services here is a long relationship. Thank you very much. I'm curious, when we look at the three projects that you have identified, not really knowing the program inside and out at all, I'm curious, if I'm an investor and I'm looking at these three sites, and one of them seems to be market rate housing, the bottom one, the other one's already in process with a nonprofit, and then the other one's SOU. What kind of investor are you looking for? Those seem like three totally different lanes.
They are actually, sorry, thank you, Counselor. It's actually one of the unique things about this program is that the diversification of the asset classes within it, and also the diversification of the types of investors. If you think about like the 1031 exchange program, you got to sell some real estate and buy some comparable real estate. This, you could be selling stock and you could go right into an economic development project, housing, solar, whatever it is. That brings in a diverse group of investors because they all have different interests. So you'll have some investors that are interested in certain types of projects. I'll say actually one of them that we did try to connect with the city of Medford for their current tract that they have. Once they looked at it, they said, we're actually more comfortable with DOD style projects because they did like a submarine manufacturing plant. And so a conference center wasn't something that was interesting to them. So you go out and you find a lot of times, when I was back in DC a couple of weeks ago, I met with a national fund manager that represents multiple funds. And so they've got a diverse portfolio of the types of investors that would want to invest in different projects. And they each have their own profiles, different risk profiles, and different project types and service areas that they would like to see their money go into. You could look at something like, and I don't want to say, since it's on the record, I don't want to say that I have any idea of any kind of plans of any of the capital stack of these projects here. But as an example, you could have, let's say if you were going to have an elder care facility for the SOU project there at Cascade, it might look like something along the lines of SOU land, ground leases the land, a developer comes in and builds the project and then rents from SOU, and then they contract a management company to do the elder care facility. It could be something that looks like that. And so they come in and they actually own, and then they don't necessarily have to operate, but they could be somebody who develops that type of property.
That's exactly what I was looking for. That's a great example. Thank you. Yeah.
And then you'd have your typical, housing investor. You might come in and you can, it's not even just an investor. You could have different programs, funding sources. New market tax credits have been one that's been paired with opportunity zones, and LIHTC, lots of different types of funding, urban renewal, lots of different types of funding in the capital stack. EDA has been in there before. So you can really get creative, but sometimes you might have a project. Let's say it's, $10 million and you're just missing $1 million or $2 million and you need to fill that gap, and you have somebody that can see the light at the end of the tunnel for the investment, and that entices them to pull that or plug into that investment.
Well, thank you and good luck to both of you. We'd love to see what business this generates in our community. Thanks.
Councillor Duquesne?
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Blair. I'm happy to see so ready here in the room. Thank you, Jordan, for your work on this. And Blair, honestly, you had me at broaden property tax base. And so in your presentation, something that Councilor Hanson brought up, looking at these three different categories here, Sunstone is primarily mixed-use affordable housing, correct? And looking at all of these, and the description that you had for SOU was spot on, thank you. My question is I love the project, the pipeline. We need you here in Ashland. I'm glad to have you, you'd be surprised. I called Jordan, I emailed Jordan because I'm like, Jordan, am I reading this right? Am I missing something? So moving forward, and I hope we put together a very robust letter because, like I said, we need this. Moving forward, is there any opportunity for prospects to come here for businesses and not just housing?
Thank you, Councilor. There is, and it just depends on are you talking about beside the Opportunity Zone program?
Yes, yes.
Yes, and I know that Jordan wants to work closely on that and strategies that make sense for the city's plans, for the people's plans of the city of Ashland. And and we can talk about, actually here, I'll give you a little story about what I would like to see ultimately throughout the region. I was meeting with the city of Central Point's, their city manager, deputy city manager, and their planner. So the planning director, she said to me, she goes, we have this general land use plan that we're working on submitting to Jackson County. And what I'd like to know from you, since you work regionally, is does this plan make strategic sense with what's happening throughout the rest of the region? Does this fit into the model of what's needed, or are we duplicating something that's already happening somewhere else? And I thought that was the most insightful question I probably could have been asked. And she probably had an answer right on the fly, because I think I did. I think that what she was proposing made a lot of sense, and their industrial lands that they had right there, it's a good use the way they laid it out. But I would really like to actually work throughout each community to find out how we can get on the same page with that regional strategy. If you think about what So Ready really is at its core, back in the 60s, this organization was created because the Department of Commerce understood that it was difficult for communities to pick up the phone and call each other and ask what their regional strategies were, or what their specific strategies were that played into the region's goals. And so that's what we were formed for. So that would be a goal of mine, is to work with the city and align with what you have, what you would like to build, and then how we can drive that.
Thank you. I look forward to working with you.
Councilor Sherrill?
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you, Blair and Jordan, for putting this together. This is exciting to see. I mean, it's an opportunity zone is really the holy grail for investment, and smart money is going to run at this. That's a fact. It's also a little concerning, and I'll get into that. But the first question I have is, like, how do we scoot this map over a little bit to include the CFA and to really supercharge this thing? Because that's what we need. Most of this is R2. We're not going to be able to get the density that we want. Like, we're going to leave a lot of meat on the bone. But really, how do we beef up our application to say, hey, Governor, you have 25% of this map is an asset that you have that's struggling within the SOU master plan here. So if I overlay a zoning map over this, a lot of this isn't even open to anybody outside of SOU. And then I'll let you answer that, and then if the mayor will allow, I'll give you some follow-up. So how do we sell that? It's like, hey, Miss Governor, help us help ourselves. Half of this map is land that we own.
Yeah. So absolutely agree with you.
And how is that not a
that
conflict?
climate-friendly area was just too far. Okay. But the good news is the SOU master plan. It has rezoned what we're allowing within that SOU zone, and some of the prime areas they'd like to develop, they have earmarked for mixed use or higher density housing, like the senior living complex that they were looking at. So in specific areas, based off the master plan we have now, there is significant opportunity. If SOU decides to sell property, like they recently did with the housing lots behind Lincoln School, that is when we'll go through the rezoning process to change them from SOU zoning. If we are awarded the opportunity zone tract, we have the option of changing some of our codes to better support development in that area as well as an amplifier. I am working with Brandon right now on the list of things that we can use right now to amplify, but setting up an urban renewal in that area could be a really great tool. We could look at, for that zone, putting the climate-friendly area things. We do have the 6-story allowance within SO zone, so that is one of the primary climate-friendly benefits. But to sell it, it's supporting SOU. We have already primed the pump for better development over there. And they have a pretty clear vision, or at least they did with the master plan, around that Walker Ashland commercial mixed-use corner, the senior living complex, et cetera.
Okay, thank you. And Mayor, can I follow up? And then now the hard question, and this is like serious, real-time hard question. Really good examples, 1 through 3. 3 is, it's no secret, it's probably a developer that has been working in Midtown and has built one of the probably better developments we have in the city, and it's also sitting vacant because the cost of construction, the cost of labor, the cost of taxes, the cost of hazard insurance, the cost of living that everybody sitting here and watching right now knows. We don't have the financial capacity at scale to fill those buildings, whether they be commercial, mixed use, or residential especially. So as we see smart money, when I say smart money, investors that have capital that don't want to pay taxes, that's easy. But when we get them built, Do we have kind of like a secondary plan that your office is going to help us with, or other regional partners to get people here or to get the jobs that are going to produce the wage that will actually be able to occupy the thing?
Thank you for the question, Counselor. That is basically my core work beyond looking regionally at things like this, or at least it should be. And yes, looking at, for one, recruiting businesses and helping businesses expand regionally is a core focus. And like I say, helping businesses that are here already be more successful. Give you another example of a business that crossed county lines in work they were doing, trying to secure a procurement for a large project in another city. Was running up against some roadblocks, and so we helped pave the way so that they could understand the procurement process, work with the city, and the project went out for bid, and they now have an opportunity to win that. And so that was like $1 million. And so focusing on things like that so that our businesses can continue to grow regionally by connecting the private industry and the public sector together is a prime focus. Recruitment of businesses, we're working on a few of them right now, where we're actively helping that business understand that this is a place that it should land versus 5 other communities that they're looking at. So recruitment is a core component of what we do as well. And so I think this goes back to the question that you had as well, which is, working with the cities and communities to understand what kind of development we want to see happen here, so long as everybody is on a similar page, is where we start. And then if we understand exactly what it is that you find are your biggest assets, then how can we help drive interest for that kind of development or job creation? And it is our goal that jobs, it's one of our targets, that activities that we're doing, businesses that we're helping expand, and businesses we're helping bring to the area are ones that are paying above county median wages. We want to bring family wage jobs to the area, and we know that's going to help lift up all communities. Like you will not see SoReady taking the lead or focusing a lot of time and energy on, let's say, like retail and food service in those areas. It's not because it's not important work. A lot of times we have downtown associations and things like that focus on that. But our work is best focused in trying to provide higher income wages for the area. We recently launched a dashboard. I would encourage you all to take a look at it. The reason for it, it's on SoReady's website, right in the middle, called the data dashboard. It is designed to provide policymaker data in comparison to other areas around the state, so we can see where we have work to do. And then it actually will provide summaries in each of those different sections, whether it be housing or industry or regional economy. This is an area we want to dive into. How do we focus on what other communities are doing that we could be doing better so we can improve some of our metrics? One of I was just talking about today was how can we integrate childcare data in here, because we'll see that Washington County versus Jackson County, for instance, we have a much lower labor participation rate of prime working age people. So why is that? Is it because they lack access to childcare, for instance, or something else, some other barrier? As we get more data, we can start to provide policymakers such as yourselves and our legislature with the actual information they need to try to make policy decisions to drive those changes. And I also think that's another area where SoReady is willing to participate, and did in the short session, is in the legislature, because I think that's really where you can start to have more impact in getting resources to this region.
Yeah, go ahead.
One more, Mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Blair. That was super comprehensive, but just the short basic, maybe you can boil it down a little bit for me. Right now we have 150 market rate houses available in Ashland that nobody can afford. We bring in a bunch of money. We have beautiful developments. This is a good thing. How come with the plans we have in place, we're not renting the things that we have currently? What's the missing link that we have?
Thank you, Councilor. That's a fantastic question. And especially as it comes to housing and how we can get occupancy rates higher in rentals or in home ownership. It's a great policy question. I just have to admit that is an area that we are actually focusing on right now. So we currently have a contract out to to gather more information to try to answer those types of questions, and especially as it pertains to that middle income family segment, because there's not a lot of subsidy available for them. But it's not necessarily that middle income has a whole lot more cash flow than some of the lower income populations either. I mean, as you move up, like, it's just expensive to live, period. And I know Ashland struggles with that as well, because your housing prices are very high. A lot of it has to do with supply. And so hopefully more supply coming online can help lower prices because of competition.
For sure. Thank you so much. Like, super exciting. Thank you for this work.
Councillor Kaplan, I cannot see your, his hand is up. Okay, I thought it might be. Councillor Kaplan?
Aha, great. Thank you so much, Mayor. Actually, I benefit from a lot of the questions that went before me, some of which I also was interested in asking. Thanks so much, Blair, for coming to talk to the council. I'm sorry I couldn't be in the room with you. We need to get our meeting on the agenda, and in the next couple of weeks, I'll be back next week. I think this is a super exciting opportunity. I think it's not only getting viable projects in front of local investors, but it's literally investors across the country. So that begs the question really about how to do that effectively. I think you talked about the marketing, and I am confident that Soretti is going to be able to do that with some of the networks that you already have. My interest is, how do we sustain that over the long haul? This is a 10-year window. And how do we stay focused on the things that the city can do to be, and that local developers, like those that Councilor Sherrill was talking about, developers and businesses, because it doesn't have to be just housing, it can be other businesses as well, to get in front of those qualified opportunity funds. So how do we make sure that we're staying really focused on this? Do we need to be continuing to focus on this as council? Is this a staff function? We don't have a lot of staff focused. We've got one person focused on economic development currently, Jordan, and just want to make sure that we don't lose the opportunity to really benefit from this opportunity zone, if in fact we get selected and push forward in this short term.
Thank you, Councilor. So that is, that's spot on. The goal would be for us to work closely together, and over that 10-year period, it's important. I was encouraging other communities to think about this as a 10-year plan, because I wanted to make sure that their council understood that this is not just for the shiny project you have right now, but for in a 10-year period of time. What development do we want to see happen in here, and how do we position the marketing around that? And how do we continue to keep those contacts hot? I think one of the things is, once we get the zone nominated, then what we want to do is pull all of those parties together to the greatest extent that we can in order to build that prospectus, because this is exactly what the city of Erie did when they built that development corporation around it, was they brought everybody together. So people that normally wouldn't be sitting at the table talking to each other, property owners, developers, city staff, this is the kind of thing that I would like to see happen this time, so that we can all say, okay, exactly what are the goals here? They can provide feedback, and that can help drive zoning decisions and recommendations to the council. And then as we come up with that package, now we have something that is worth going out and selling. And I will say that when you are working with a lot of these national fund managers, you got to get it right the first time. You don't really have another opportunity to go back to them, and you don't want to go in with some sort of a half-baked plan that says, hey, we have great things going on here in Southern Oregon, do you want to talk? They're going to say, well, specifically, what does that mean, and what's in it for my investors? So I think a really well thought out plan is going to start as soon as we get this nomination done. I would say really even before then, to start sitting down and thinking about how we can get ahead of the curve, because that's actually exactly what Erie did too. They had their corporation up and running by the time the new map was live, and they were out selling it the minute that January 1st, 2018 came around. And my goal, and the reason why I've been getting on this early to try to lay groundwork and get coordination happening throughout the region, is because I think that's going to be really important for us too, is January 1st, 2018, or 2027, sorry, we want to have this thing ready to roll, because investors are, already one of them that I was talking to has about $3.5 million of investment that they want to invest potentially in Ashland census tract. they're holding on to complete the sale of that so that they can hopefully land like next year, and then they'll have time to get it into the qualified opportunity fund so that it can go in with the right timing. The capital won't be, I mean, of course, capital is always going to be revolving. You're going to have people selling assets and they're going to have capital gains, but there is a pent-up demand, and especially for those rural census tracts right now, where we want to be first out of the gate to going out and advertising it.
Right.
Councillor-
Yeah, well, I think we want to be first. I think we want to be first out of the gate, and I think we want to be in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
You know, it is, as you said, it is a 10-year program. We absolutely need to establish credibility, ability to deliver, you know, the opportunities, and actually get the shovels in the ground and get the things done. But this is a very interesting census tract. I think it's unique in some ways. Other councillors talked about the fact that much of it is on state land, and I think putting together a really robust partnership with Southern Oregon University for some investment, some development that can benefit cash flow for the university as well would be really important.
Councillor Sherrill?
Thank you, Mayor. Just one, maybe a question or a comment that I was spurred by my colleague, Councillor Kaplan. You talk a lot about institutional capital coming in. Do we have a game plan to also look at local money? Like, how do we keep Main Street on Main Street and not all Wall Street money when we're talking financial stack? So maybe you can school us on that.
Thank you for that question, Councillor. So that's one of the most effective strategies in even making this program work, is by having regional capital invested. So I mentioned, I believe in the deck, so far I have about $5 million worth of local investors, people that live here in the valley that would like to see that money stay in the valley. They know they could potentially get a better return somewhere else, but they want to see it happen in their community. Those are the types of investors that SoReady is going out talking to and gathering right now and letting them know before these census tracts are even nominated, the types of things that might be available to them to put their money into.
These are individuals, not funds, correct?
Correct.
Got
These are individual investors that are realizing a gain somewhere in some asset class that they have, and they want to know where they can put their money, where they're going to be able to drive by and see it every day, because they could just put it back into the stock market, or they could defer the gain and see it go into their community. And I think that's the beauty of this program and why it had bipartisan support, is that it takes money off the sidelines and puts it back into the community. What I will say is that well, I don't know if any of you remember, but we used to have an angel investor fund. And when we did, we had about 25 angel investors in that. It wound down because there weren't a lot of local companies to invest in. A lot of the companies are coming from out of the area, and those investors said, I want my money to stay here. So this is the perfect program for them. This is the program where we go back out to that investor pool and already have started to say, keep that money here locally. And that helps the national capital come online.
Great. So Blair, I noticed in the packet that the governor will send her nominations in, I guess it's July to September sometime. We would know at that point. I mean, is that basically when we would find out, or is there an actual issue with the certification at the federal level?
Thank you for that question, Mayor. So Treasury issued the maps earlier this year, a couple of months ago, or I should say maybe it was like a month and a half ago. And that gave us the eligible list of census tracts, 229 of them. We are now going and nominating throughout the state, up through Business Oregon, which is the economic development agency for the state that the governor has said will handle the scoring rubric and everything else and the packet to make sure that they are aligning the census tracts that are being nominated with the highest and best investment potential and with state alignment priorities as well for development projects. And then they will provide that final number of the 57, 58 to the governor's office. And then the governor will look at them and pretty much have a lot of faith in her agency that those were well chosen and that they're going to be the best use of the program throughout that period of time. And then, as you mentioned, starting in July, she has a window between July and September 28th to take that list, mull over it, make sure it makes sense, make adjustments to it, submit that to Treasury, And then Treasury's just, this is US Treasury, they're just going to spend the rest of the year going ahead and making sure that it all does conform with the original census tract map. There's going to be the opportunity for, it's a hard opportunity. You have to basically be challenging the numbers that another census tract should have been eligible, but it wasn't. So they'll be going through that kind of process and making sure that those ineligible census tracts have been, that they're agreed upon, that they actually should have been eligible. And then January 1, 2027, they'll issue the new map and the program goes on. And then after that, it's between investors and the IRS. And then the reporting mechanisms that were put in place in order to actually be able to make public the types of investments that are being made. So that's the whole timeline.
Great, great. Any other questions? Okay, the floor is open for a motion. Councilor Bloom?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt Resolution 2026-06, endorsing the nomination of Census Tract 19 as an Opportunity Zone 2.0.
Second.
Councilor Bloom?
Incredible work. Thank you. And this is a huge opportunity for Ashland. And this is, I mean, gosh, it's been a few years, almost 3 years now. We've been talking about the need for economic development, the need for housing. And so to have this tool come before us is phenomenal. So thank you so much.
Councilor Duquesne?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Blair. Like I said, I'm very happy to see you here and to partner with you and the work that we can get done. It's much needed. We have been talking about it. Ditto what he said. I look forward to working with you. Thank you too, Jordan.
Further discussion. Councilor Hansen?
Yeah, I totally support this 110%, and I would be remiss if I didn't remind yourself and anybody that's investing in our communities to remember that we have two big properties coming up for development here soon, hopefully, with the railroad property in the middle of town and the Crewman Mill property over on the outside of town, and there's a lot of industrial underutilized opportunities out there. So yes, please pedal to the metal on the economic development. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please. Sabrina?
Sherrill? Yes.
Dale?
Yes.
Bloom?
Yes.
Kaplan?
Yes.
Duquesne?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Great. And Blair, I look forward to working with you. We'll get that letter out, and I have some other ideas about some local support that might be useful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mayor, I do have two quick points of order.
Sure.
The first being the item that was taken off the consent agenda, it's a resolution, so it should probably get moved to the end of this section on ordinance and resolutions. And the second is Councilor Bloom made a point of information related to a non-item, so that actually is a good time to address it if the city manager is able to answer that question.
Right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's take up the resolution. Yes, from the consent agenda. Resolution of the City of Ashland authorizing a loan from the Oregon Transportation Infrastructure Fund by entering into a loan agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation.
So before council's request to approve a resolution authorizing borrowing from the Oregon Department of Transportation Infrastructure Bank for the North Mountain Avenue Rehab Project. And so we need a resolution for you to be able to do that. And then our recommendation is you approve the loan so we can do the infrastructure work.
Councilor Duquesne?
Thank you, Mayor. I pulled this off the consent agenda because I feel it merits discussion. This is regarding $7,622,963. So I believe it does merit a discussion, and this money is just for Phase 1. How much is Phase 2? We already have an outstanding loan of $75 million for a water treatment plant. And on our ballots, there is an ask for support from the Ashland School District, which will also hit our property taxes. So when I look at this, I don't know if now is the time to add this additional cost. I read it and it said that this would be consumed by the food and beverage tax. the food and beverage tax could possibly sunset in 2030. And so what is Plan B?
So the food and beverage tax that we collect will pay this back.
By 2030?
That I'd have to get clarification from Scott. So council was made aware, and we've done the engineering, design, and construction contracts that were all approved by council. So this is the last phase to get the funding to move forward with what's already in motion. So, if we don't get the funding, we can't move this infrastructure project forward, and we've already utilizes both staff time and resources to get the design as well as the construction lined up.
And looking at the design and the construction lineup, do you know how much Phase 2 is going to be?
I do not have that information.
But following on behind that, Phase 2 is a separate.
That will be a separate
project.
process, yes.
Okay. Councilor Bloom.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to point out that it does say in the packet that this is going to be paid back with food and beverage tax, but actually that's not what's in the loan agreement. It does include the food and beverage tax, but it also includes the street user fee and the full faith and credit of the borrower. So I guess to Councilor Duquesne's point is that if the food and beverage sunsetted, there is in the loan agreement, they have other ways of getting their money from us.
And the other ways of getting their money from us would impact the ratepayers.
So the street user fee, which we collect
out of our utility
as well
bill.
as general fund.
That goes in the general fund, yep.
Any other questions of staff?
Mayor, please.
Councilor Sherrill?
Thank you, Mayor. Just confirming that we already funded and completed the work for the railroad crossing. That's already done and out of this and already been paid, correct?
For the railroad crossing?
Yeah, that's already, I know the work's done and we allocated the money.
Correct, because you've already approved the contract and the construction.
And I
So
don't-
This is the last step.
Got it, okay, thank you. I just wasn't sure.
So if we don't borrow this money, then we will have to pay it out of the general fund. So council has already approved us to go after the loan. We're bringing back the resolution to do that tonight.
Councilor Hanson?
Yeah, I know this may seem like it's popping up out of nowhere, but I remember the loan approval and the discussion in the Transportation Advisory Committee, and then here again in these chambers. Obviously, this is the loan agreement is new to me. I haven't seen it, so that all jives and makes sense. So for what it's worth, what do we get in the food and beverage annually? 3 million. Yeah, something in that nature. So it doesn't seem shocking or surprising to me, but I could see how it could be.
Councilor Bloom?
Yeah, just quick follow-up to something you said, that if this loan isn't approved, that it would just come out of the general fund.
Well, we'd have to use our food and beverage. So the work's already been done, so we have to pay the construction. And so this loan allows us to do this over time versus immediately.
I guess what I was getting at is I just wanted it to be clearly stated out loud. We've already spent the money.
We've already
This is
spent the
about-
money.
I
because
think that
council
that's an important.
authorized us to
Right.
use this process to get the loan.
Right.
So we could spread that payment out over time instead of doing it all at once. And so this is just the last part of this project to be wrapped up.
Right, thank you.
If I can.
Councilor Duquesne?
Thank you, Mayor. I do remember when this came in front of us before. And I understand that things have already been in work. So this is a matter, if I understand this correctly, of us kind of paying ourselves back because the money's been allocated, it's out there. And I appreciate that. However, I don't, looking at the principle behind this, I don't feel like I can support it at this time.
Are there any other questions of staff? The question? The floor is open for a motion. Councilor Hanson?
Thanks, Mayor. I move to approve resolution number 2026-04, a resolution titled quote, resolution of the City of Ashland authorizing a loan from the Oregon Transportation Infrastructure Fund by entering into a loan agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councillor Hanson.
Yeah, thank you. We had a lot of public engagement around this project, and it's very expensive to keep our roads operating the way they are. You know, we have a long process of maintenance before we get to a total redo like this, and it's, you know, part of the social contract, you know, that we have with our citizens, where, you know, you live in a city, we take care of things like the road and the water and the electricity. So I support this 110%, and I also think it's going to be a safer corridor for those traveling up and down with the improvements, notably the protected bike lane, which will connect us to Hersey Street and that biking corridor. So I just thank staff for securing a loan at such, you know, low rates, and all the work that's been done there. And I look forward to zipping down the hill on my bicycle with my kiddo down to soccer practice down there after it's all done. And the patience of the community. It's a heavy lift to have to circumnavigate when that's closed because of construction. So thank you for your patience, everybody.
Councillor Bloom.
Yeah, I've been vocal about this in the past. I do think that we need to be taking a closer look and slow down a little bit on some of these big projects and be very critical at times. But the reality is this money is expended already, and I'm not interested in paying it out of the general fund. So, and 2.77, that's a pretty darn good rate. So,
Councillor Dale.
Yeah, I just want to follow up behind what Councillor Bloom said. I am a little disappointed to not have just kind of a refresh of the financials so that everybody can see it and how that works within the packet, but completely understand. But 2.77 all the way through 2042 that's his, I mean, I know it's a lot of money, but that, you know, over 30 years there's just no better investment in the return you're going to get on that. So I understand it, but that is we were just talking about capital earlier. You talk about people jumping at this to be able to invest in the future. It's kind of a no-brainer.
Okay, if there is no other discussion, roll call, please. Jordan.
Sherrill.
Yes.
Dale.
Yes.
Bloom.
Yes.
Duquesne.
No.
Hanson.
Yes.
Kaplan.
Yes.
Thank you. We are going to take a short break. Please be back in your seats, councillors, at 8 o'clock by this side clock. Thank you. I call the meeting back to order. We start after the break with the point of information from Councilor Bloom. Councilor?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, my question was just about what your intentions are, what your thoughts are on the spraying tomorrow out on the Night Lawn area.
Yeah, so I did speak to the interim parks director today, and we're having a discussion tomorrow. So she's put it on pause until we have that discussion. So I think just kind of an important point, we have been weed eating that area. Unfortunately, we have some issues with the dogs and feces in that area, so weed eating isn't working very well. And just so everyone's clear, we spot spray. It's not like we're coating the whole thing. But given the proximity and the requests coming in, I think it's probably best that we put that on pause until we have the greater policy discussion. You know, we do use it in the medians, but there's other locations that Parks also uses it in a spot spray capacity. And so when we bring this back for the joint meeting, we will have a map of where it's used, how it's applied, how much we use each year. So that information will be public and part of that discussion, just so everyone has kind of a baseline understanding.
I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
And a follow-on point of information as well. Some folks in town have asked if we're still accepting ideas for the median because the joint parks and council study session where we're going to take up the conversation has been postponed until June. So can people still submit their ideas?
Yeah, we did just pull the information today to start taking a look at that. So I would say if you're still looking to submit ideas, we will accept that until the 15th. And then after that, we're going to need to kind of start working to get it together.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, we move on now to unfinished business. We have one item in this category, staff relocation update and resolution 2026-05, reserving the community center and Pioneer Hall for public use. Sabrina?
Yes, so this is a follow-on to a conversation that happened earlier this year. So as everyone's aware, we had some life safety issues that required the relocation of city staff from City Hall. Temporarily, we've been in the community center. That location was chosen for the fact that it would not interrupt already programmed usage of public space. So for example, Pioneer Hall already had rentals in that space, and the Grove has classes in their space. And so when we're looking for a place to put staff, a space that was not open and is not open to the public yet, seemed the best option for a temporary stay. So we have received direction from you all to put together a resolution, which is before you tonight, to not allow staff to use the office space in Pioneer Hall and the community center moving forward. So that is included in this item as well. And before you, I've listed some options for consideration. I think it's important to just have some background information that traditionally there have been staff offices in those buildings. Most recently, Parks offices prior to them being shut down for enclosure for repair several years ago. So I think, you know, what's been interesting about having the community center open is we've had people who have been prior employees of the city in office in that space come and visit us and see the building. So there is a history of city staff being in those spaces. So I think when we're considering shutting them off completely to office space, I think that's important information for council to have as you are removing some office space that was designed to accommodate staff in the remodel. So when we're thinking about relocating, I put together kind of some options for council to consider as we move forward through this policy question. So we have kind of most impactful to least impactful, or vice versa, least impactful to most impactful. So relocating staff does have a dollar amount that comes with it, as well as a disruption to operational continuity. So in kind of order of least cost to most cost, we have 3 staff members that I would recommend we relocate to allow for rental of the main space once it's complete and open for rental. So when you walk into the community center, there's a large open area that people are interested in leasing for events. I think the cloggers have a particular interest in the wooden floors, et cetera. And so relocating those staff next door to some cubicle areas in the community development would have the least relocation costs for us right now and the least disruption. It would also keep kind of the administration staff in the same area with the least amount of impact. And talking to the park staff over at the Grove, there is enough space to allow all of admin to kind of move into the Grove and relocate some park staff over to the Nature Center. That does have an impact on some Grove programming that's typically in the Audie Peterson room. So there's a large area that we would need to occupy. And so getting some feedback from those programs and the recreation staff, they are not interested in relocating their programs to Pioneer Hall or the community center due to the lack of parking near those buildings. So their preference is to remain where they are, but there is space to potentially move them to the two new buildings and then relocate staff in the Grove. So that's kind of a medium cost. The most expensive, and the one I can't really recommend as the budget officer for the city, is to lease additional space for staff. We have a lot of space that's underutilized or empty building space. And given our budget situation and the fact that we're already paying $80,000 a year to lease an office building, it's getting more and more expensive to kind of lease office space for staff. I would like to find a way to kind of make it work in the interim. Now, I know there's a bigger discussion to be had about City Hall that we're not having tonight, but if we're gonna have that discussion anytime soon, there's always, the pause button on that decision. And if we're gonna rework it and then potentially have staff move back in, that is probably not as palatable because we have the loss of the public space, which is of concern. So my recommendation would be to have the least impact would be to move the 3 staff members who are in the main rental space out so we could accommodate rentals when the last of the work is done and the building's open for space. But I think at this point, given the resolution, council can weigh in on what they would like to see.
So just in terms of some context setting, the where and how that staff is moved, as it was when the emergency showed itself, is a staffing decision. So we're not going to make a decision as a council in terms of any of these options, but it's very helpful to understand what the potential realm of options are. There isn't any obvious place that is a, kind of an obvious place where there would be no trade-offs.
If I could, I think, I didn't break the beam. Obviously, City Hall has been brewing for a while. But when council decided to bring forward that resolution, it's kind of a policy decision where staff goes now, because you're eliminating office space potentially. And so all of these are requiring funding if we're not in.
So you would like us to make an operational decision, or to this decision that's moved into policy now?
This decision is moved into policy.
Okay. All right, Councilor Bloom.
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple of things. I mean, I still see it as operational, but that's all right if you'd like us to weigh in on that. I'm certainly interested in adjusting the resolution to allow for that existing office space to be utilized. I think that's completely fair. The whole point, I think, why council asked for this resolution was that that community space that could be rented be available. So, I'll admit oversight on my part in the phrasing of that, and so I think I'd be happy to make that change. What is the timeline? Because one thing I noticed too with this resolution is there's talk of July 1st. And when we had the meeting, Jordan you and I kind of had that conversation. And I said, well, how much time do you need, right? Because we're not trying to evict you the next day. And you stated 6 weeks, and we ended up going 7 weeks. So I'm wondering why the timeline changed based on the direction that council gave to staff.
So depending on what you pick, we can be relocated in 2 to 4 weeks, but the community center will not be available for leasing until the final doors are put in with the appropriate locks and everything. And so depending on the lane we pick, we'll move forward quickly to relocate. But the building is not available for rental still until it's complete.
Could I have a quick follow-up?
Sure.
Just to clarify about the doors, is the door situation in the proper locks? Because there is going to be the public in there, and there are offices, city offices in there as well. Is that the main intention, I would imagine?
Yeah, the main intention is the doors aren't the correct doors, and we've kept some of the historic ones, and so they're not as secure as we'd like. And so we're trying to navigate that just in terms of ensuring proper security for the building, whether or not we're in the building.
So if this was restated, one, to allow the office space in there for staff, and then also, let's say that the date moved to June 1st, the start of summer, that was something that you could accommodate based on the intent of the original, ask for the resolution.
Sorry, if I could so June 1st for rental?
No, just to like, hey, here's the timeline. That way there's plenty of time for all of you to be accommodated and also for, the work to be completed on the doors before the community is allowed to rent the space.
Well, the doors are not here still.
Right.
So as long as the doors get here, I think June 1st is fine,
Okay.
but I don't have control of the doors. I'm
Absolutely.
assuming there's.
But it wouldn't affect you in any negative way if we made it June 1st.
No.
Okay.
I think, once we move, whoever we need to move, the building will be empty and locked up until someone leases it or
Right.
rents it. Sorry.
Right. Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Councillor Duquesne.
Thank you. So thank you, Sabrina, for clearing that up. I just want to make sure that I heard that right. So right now, the doors are not secure, but city offices are in there?
So they're not the right doors, and so they need to be replaced. And we have some issues with the locks that we don't want to deal with until the right doors are in place.
And these are interior
and then-
doors.
No, the exterior doors.
Exterior doors.
Yeah.
And so, in asking that question, I just wanted to make sure because I understood them as exterior doors. And then once.
Well, it's
say if-
exterior and interior. They're all wrong.
So once, say, June 1st rolls around, did you mention that then people would be able to rent the community center or after the doors are put in? and
After
then
the doors
people
are
can-
complete, yes.
Okay, all right. And so something that I looked at in the packet, and then I heard you say that it would take about 2 weeks to relocate, because here it was more like July, and I thought, oh, what's the...
The less people we have to relocate, the quicker we can do it. The more we have to do, the longer it will take. So right now is our busy season, so we rely on our facilities, on our street team, and some of our staff to help move stuff. And so it's going to be harder to get people off job sites to help us move. So that's the rub there.
And so,
Or we have to
last
hire
question, really quick, is that you have cost in here, the cost to relocate, and depending on how many people or where the relocation is, how much did it cost to relocate from City Hall to the community center
Give me 1 minute, I'll
and
calculate
to
it for
the
you.
finance department? And finance stays where they are.
So finance
I
wasn't
mean,
moved.
legal stays where they are. I'm
Legal
sorry.
stays were there.
Yeah.
Councillor Sherrill, while we were gathering that information, Councillor Sherrill.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe this is just like a point of clarification. I know we're not really deliberating on where the location is, but I have a couple of questions. One is the options that we brought forward that I don't see. And then the second question is just under the relocation update, it talks about life safety issues requiring relocation and temporary location. And if we've corrected the life safety issues per the structural engineer and the repair, like, is it even an option to get staff back to City Hall with some sort of repair? And what does that look like? And can that be part of this discussion?
So our city manager has asked us to weigh in on the where staff goes because of the earlier conversation the council has had. So it's, so there is going to be council direction in terms of which option is handled. So it's fine to bring that question up. And so, Sabrina, did you have any
Yeah,
thoughts?
about 16,000.
16,000.
And then in terms of the question of City Hall,
Yeah, so
having
just-
that as a part of the option.
Okay, so I guess my question is, just looking at the options, I noticed that's not one. If we're able to correct the life safety issue that we deemed it, the problem to be a life safety issue, if that's fixed, do we have the potential to potentially look at making repairs and relocating staff back to City Hall?
So if you look, the last option is remain until City Hall is repaired. So that's a bigger question for council. But we cannot put staff in a building that's leaking and without a functional HVAC.
So if we have like a sign off from an engineer and the fire official having authority and new HVAC and a roof patch, you would feel comfortable putting your staff back in there?
With asbestos testing, the electrical taken care of, and a new roof, yes.
New roof, okay. Yeah, that's, I mean, we want it to be safe for public and staff.
Well, and I think right now what we're looking at is we have a near-term question. The council has determined that at the point where that building is able to be rented, we want it available to the community. I think everybody wants that. And so the question becomes, where do the staff go in the meantime? And it sounds to me like there's an interest in allowing the places that are built for offices to remain offices in the community center. But then that leaves the three people who are currently right now having their offices in the main part of the community center needing to go somewhere. So tonight the question in front of us is both the resolution and making sure we have the resolution language correct, and then also identifying, which of the options until such time as City Hall or some other facility comes available, right? So we want to narrow that scope. Councilor Bloom.
Yeah. So this is why I'm uncomfortable getting into the operations question here, is that we have a report on City Hall that says if the rafter is repaired, that it could be reoccupied. Okay. I understand from your perspective that that's not something that you're interested in doing until proper repairs are done. But now we're being asked to weigh in on operations and where your location is. And that means that City Hall is now at play. And so what I'm proposing here is that we pass this resolution, and if it's done in a way that allows some staff to remain in the community center, we do not need to get into the operational question because it's pretty obvious what the right move would be from an operational perspective. And I'm saying that so that we're not putting ourselves in a position where we're saying, guess what? Now we do get to tell you to go back into City Hall. So if that sounds good to everybody, I think that that's maybe the safest thing that we could do.
Councilor Hanson.
Thank you. I'd actually would like Councilor Bloom to restate that, and then I have a question, or more of a statement. Could you restate that for us, please?
Just what I was just saying? Yeah, so essentially what I'm saying is that I don't think that it's really our business to be directing operations and where staff goes. And because what could happen is you have the potential where it's then, okay, well then you have to go back into City Hall. And I think that we need to have a broader conversation about City Hall and the level of repairs that need to happen. So what I'm suggesting is that the resolution is passed, and I would amend that resolution to allow, from what the original one was, to allow for staff to remain in the community center in the office spaces that are already existing. And then we don't even get into the operational question of where staff goes, because the obvious is the $4,000 option and they relocate to ComDev. So I'm trying to, let's get out of operations, let's keep it clean, and just kind of move on.
I love that, and if I may, I just want to remind this council and our community that we stepped in it when we called a special meeting and we got into operations. So I think it's completely fair for staff to come back and ask us an operational question, because essentially we didn't let them do their job. We came in, pulled in a policy discussion that had operations wrapped in it, and now they're saying, okay, we're confused, you decide. And I love not being in operations. And I love the compromise of, we'll open up the community center when the doors are all here. I don't like the idea of a timeline. I'm in construction. A month is like, yeah, maybe, maybe not. So I would suggest we leave the timeline out of it and just keep the bones of the resolution, which is, we're gonna open it up as soon as possible. We're going to let staff do their thing, and I love getting out of operations. We do have a policy discussion to have about facilities and City Hall and all that. I totally get it, and I want to get into those weeds too. Doesn't seem like this is the time for that, but I just wanted to remind, the community and us that we're here because I think because we put ourselves here. And I empathize with the situation, and I think that this is a gracious compromise. And I hope we can nail it, and staff can go to work, knowing where they're going to go to work.
Councilor
Thanks.
Duquesne.
Thank you. As the other counselor who asked for this special meeting on March 27th, I don't think we stepped in it. I think we stepped up to it because this is the community center and that's the people's house. The people waited for 7 years to have access to their center. It's not as if we have several of them to choose from. We have one. So I felt it was important to call a special meeting. Glad we did. I believe that everyone should be able to work and get their work done, and it can be done. We have great technology, and a lot of people do great work remotely. So I don't feel as if services are going to lack. I appreciate what Councilor Bloom would like to bring forward. However, as the person who asked for the special meeting, it wasn't for a partial part of the community center. It was for access to all of the community center. I do not support the thought of, okay, offices will stay offices. I would like to see the people to be able to go and come as will, be able to rent it in the day, in the afternoon, in the evening as will. And that was my purpose for requesting, part of my purpose for requesting a special meeting. There are options here. This is not forever. It's a temporary thing. So I am of the mindset of moving forward. If it is June 1st, I'm cool with that. However, I believe that the community center, everybody in the community should have access to it any time of day or evening.
So I think
without
just
the
a
offices.
Point of clarification, the community center will be available for lease during the day, even if offices are in there. That won't stop that.
But I would like people to have access to the entire community center. So if there's an office in there and I want to go in there and have a special meeting before we have an event later on that day, I would want people to have access to it. It's the people's community center. So thank you for that vision, but it's the people's community center.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on. If we don't have any additional questions of staff, the floor is open for a motion. Councilor Bloom?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt Resolution 2026-05 with Section 1 amended to read that the Community Center and Pioneer Hall are reserved for public, civic, recreational, cultural, meeting, and other community-serving uses, that general administrative occupancy of the primary public meeting, rental, and program spaces shall end no later than June 1st, 2026, and that city staff may continue to use existing office areas that were part of the building design or historic function, provided that such uses does not displace public rentals, public programming, or community access until council finalizes a long-term administrative facilities plan, including the future use, repair, or reoccupancy of City Hall.
Is there a second? Councilor Bloom?
I'm happy to correct the mistake about the office issue. And again, just kind of reiterating that, 7 years this building was closed. We spent millions of dollars to repair Pioneer Hall and the community center for the community use. And it is important, and it is a policy question of the use and purpose of a building, one that has always been available to the community, and now I'm hopeful will continue to be available once we get some doors fixed, obviously. And so, yes, I hope council supports this motion, and we can move on from this discussion.
Councilor Dale?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just listening to this, I hear all that and in support. I understand Councilor Duquesne's concerns, certainly for sure. I do think, as Councilor Sherrill alluded to, that we'll be having the City Hall conversation in very short order. So I'm willing to support this, understanding Councilor Duquesne, but thinking that in probably a matter of weeks, maybe maybe just a month or so, or whatever that looks like, that problem will solve itself.
Any further discussion? I'm hopeful that we're getting to a solid resolution on this that works both for our community and for our staff. And just want to remind everyone that the staff moving into that building has not delayed its opening. And I think that that's an important thing for us to keep in mind, is that a near-term emergency move has not in any way, what was holding it up was the doors. That's why it wasn't open. And so that I'm looking forward to the day when the doors are there, when everything is in place. We can have a big community celebration and ribbon cutting and the whole deal, and kick off the community's use of that building, while also making sure that we've taken care of our staff. Roll call, please.
Sherrill.
Yes.
Dale.
Yes.
Bloom.
Yes.
Duquesne.
No.
Hanson.
Yes.
Kaplan.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we are now to new business. We have the final recommendations for the 2200 Ashland Street Ad Hoc Committee. With us, we have Noah Wertheiser, but I'll go ahead and hand it over to Sabrina to get us started.
I'm good with just handing it over to Noah. But no, the 2200 Ad Hoc Committee has done amazing work. There's a couple of them in the audience. I don't know if you want to stand up to be recognized real quick. Kristen and Kathy are here. These working groups, we had 2 working groups. They did a lot of work going out and, seeing what opportunities were out there, what service providers do. And so tonight are the final recommendations. So Noah has put together a presentation for you all, and I'll let him run through that. So thank you, Noah.
Oh my gosh, it works. Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Thank you, Sabrina, for the opportunity to present the work of the 2200 Ashland Street Ad Hoc Committee, round 2, I suppose. My name is Noah Wertheiser. I'm the chair of the committee. Tonight, I'm going to talk through the structure of the work, the final recommendations that the committee is bringing forward for your consideration. Throughout the process, the committee approached the work from a place of shared values. The property at 2200 is the heart of a vibrant and engaged neighborhood, and it will serve some of the community's most vulnerable members. Shoot, it's up already? We held both of those realities with equal care, and our goal was really to honor both of those to the best of our ability. Lovely, okay. Yes. The committee was charged with developing a facility site plan, identifying potential approaches for services and accountability within the existing building, preparing some guiding documents, outlining a communication and engagement structure, and exploring options for interim and long-term use of the property. The work builds directly on the prior 2200 Ashland Street Master Plan, which established the overall site use framework and management principles. With a 6-month timeline, the work was divided into 2 work groups, the Site Planning and Development Work Group, which focused mostly on feasibility, development models, partnership structures, and the like. And the Services and Accountability Work Group focused on governance structure and accountability systems and operational clarity. The full committee then reviewed and refined that work into the recommendations that we're presenting tonight. The aim was not to produce, and I think this is really important, and so important that I stressed it a number of times, not a rigid blueprint, but instead to have a more thoughtful framework that was flexible, enough to get a wide range of potential partners, but also principled enough to be able to hold them accountable to the things that we, that you, I suppose, as council, would like for policy. Let's see, where am I? Am I in 3? Yes. As previously mentioned, the Site Planning and Development Work Group met with many experts in the field to better understand some zoning, the building envelope, the overall development constraints, In addition, we conducted a lot of research into local and regional successful housing models for reference. The committee recommends that the city conduct preliminary feasibility conversations and gather letters of interest from potential developers prior to the issuing of an RFP in order to gauge the interest and explore feasibility so that we can better tailor that RFP. The goal has been to keep the working parameters, like I said, relatively broad to provide a range of possibilities, more interest in the developers that we could entice. The working framework includes possible housing models, populations to serve, and general design and size considerations. The full set of development recommendations is included in attachment A of the document that's in the packet. That's the full report. The work group explored several housing models consistent with the prior master plan framework, including tiny home villages and multi-unit efficiency apartments, multiplex configurations, modular and container-based construction, and also mid-rise vertical construction. Vertical construction received a lot of attention. The climate-friendly area overlay for this zone allows up to, I believe, is it 5 stories? 5 stories, 60 feet. Given the particular size, the irregular shape of this piece of property, height could be a really strong fit. But conversations with developers made it really clear that cost scales really sharply up. The higher you go with certain types of housing that require specifically lots of supports, services, especially like permanent supported housing, transitional housing, things that require a lot of care for the residents. They're much more expensive to build, they're much more expensive to operate, and they're very, very expensive to insure. So much so that Jason Elzey, who's the executive director at Housing Authority of Jackson County, said this kind of thing is something that he wouldn't usually be interested in because it's so small and the scale ability is up. And so the insurance requirements are very high. So the recommendation is that the city seek a qualified, so again, sorry, just one more point. That is not suggesting that we don't scale up, just that when evaluating the proposals, that it is taken into consideration the type of housing alongside the height. So the recommendation is that the city seek a qualified entity or consortium to develop housing serving one or more of the populations listed in attachment A of the report.
Noah?
Yeah.
Would you like questions as we go?
Leave that up to you. Sure, questions as you go is great.
Councillor Hanson has a question.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Noah. Appreciate you pausing. So I know that cities and municipalities have a little different insurance opportunity and portfolio than nonprofits and other entities. I'm curious, with the warning about insurance, was there any kind of caveat there? Like, oh yeah, you're a city, so it might be different, or?
Yeah,
that is a big red flag. I'm just curious if there was
red
any
flag.
caveats that you could throw in there.
Potentially. So the one big issue is that in order to make the piece of property attractive
To a developer.
right, to a developer, it usually requires some kind of a long-term lease for a low dollar amount, right?
Like a land bank.
Something like that, which has specific insurance constraints. Usually the responsibility falls then on the developer to do that.
Oh, okay.
Same
Interesting.
thing, yeah, and if the excuse me, I don't know if I'm close enough. If the property itself received like a triple net lease, maybe a developer came in and also wanted to provide services out of the building, and so that you operated out of a triple net lease, that always includes insurance as well. So, by the developer, by the person who operates the triple net lease, not the city.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Good question. Okay. Additional considerations include a minimum, just going to stress that, approximately 300 square feet per unit with larger units for families or persons with disabilities. Innovative, cost-efficient designs suited for the unusual shape, compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood standards, and shared spaces for landscaping and long-term sustainability, all things that the city usually does anyway, but wanted to put that out.
So Noah, before we move on from that last slide, the 300 square feet, we've had some comments from the public that the state requirement, the lower number is 190 square feet. Can you talk to us a little bit about why it would seem that 190 would give us more flexibility when we think about that. So can you help us understand why we're looking at 300 in the recommendations?
Yeah, 300 is 190 is the state
I guess
requirement.
that in terms of the really tiny efficiency type development is the way I understand it.
And I'm sorry, that's qualifications for a specific type of housing, though, isn't it? I think it's
It might be.
Yeah, I think it's specific to a particular type of housing, not for general low-income housing. I think 300 is usually the preferred size preference for that. But also 300 is what generally is recommended by social service advocates for being able to get, 300 is not very large anyway. So for regular, I say regular, but I guess I mean standard affordable housing, a minimum of 300 is usually what's reasonable. For something that's more transitional, like transitional housing or permanent supported housing, those often can be much smaller, but those also receive a lot of services. So although they might be less expensive to build in general, a larger number, bigger bang for the buck, so to speak, they are also more expensive to maintain over time.
If you'd like to come up with alongside Noah, that's fine. Good to see you, Kathy.
So, I'm Kathy McNeil. I was a member of the committee. And one of the considerations in terms of the size of the units has to do with, in my mind, with the negative impact of smaller spaces on individuals with mental health concerns. They often, there's a lot of research that living in small spaces can increase depression and anxiety in particular. And so depending on the population, if for like transitional housing or permanent supported housing, those spaces may create greater problems within the community for some of the individuals, which then create a larger problem for the community itself, trying to deal with those issues. So it depends a lot on the population to be served and who those individuals are and how living in smaller space may affect their mental health.
Okay, thank you.
And pardon me, Mayor, we have a request just to make sure you're speaking very close to your microphone so folks can hear.
Yeah.
Speak closer to. Yeah, right. Sorry.
Yeah, you can even pull those mics towards you, maybe potentially a little bit. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Very good.
Yes.
Okay.
Councilor Sherrill.
Thank you. Just another siting and design question, not as much in the square footage, but were we looking at minimum densities that needed to be achieved due to new state laws, and could we meet those without going tighter and taller? Like the way the rough math, and I'm not asking you to know this answer, but the quick cowboy math was we would have to go up to meet the minimum densities on some early calculations. Did you guys talk about that, or is there a balance between going up a few stories to meet minimum density based on size?
No, the discussions that we did have specifically with Brandon Goldman talking about the requirement aspect is that whatever the development actually ends up looking like, the requirements will have to be met in order to be allowed
awesome.
through the planning. But
okay.
Yeah, it's not or through a conditional use permit, I think is what is it? Conditional use?
Yeah, CUP, yes. Yeah, okay, awesome. That's great to hear. Thank you both.
Councilor Duquesne?
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Noah. Hi, Kathleen. Something that I think I remember in one of the meetings, because it's good when you talk about the density and getting maximum density, and the insurance that you mentioned, Noah, is that it can be so expensive, because I remember an example that was given to us. We might have been at Aura about having several stories and someone leaving the water on, or someone, doing things that it could really put the floors underneath in a bad way. And I remember, kind of to answer your question about the insurance, that they gave us an example about things like, because we don't know who's going to be occupying the homes, and in any home, in any instance, somebody could have an accident like that, and this seemed to be more frequent, and it was like, no, so we don't want to go too high. And so that made sense to me, and I was just sitting there being a fly on the wall when that conversation was being had. But I do remember given that example about insurance and about height.
Yeah, that example came from Jason Elsie, who said that the proximity between the apartments, when they're densely packed like that, that the proximity causes that kind of issue, and that it's preventable, but it requires a lot of money up front to have those kinds of separations in the plumbing and the separations in the walls and all of that, and so you're either paying for it up front or you're paying for it at the back end. So.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, services and accountability. So the services and accountability work group focused on the governance structure and operational clarity, accountability systems as well. The central recommendation for administration of the site is a coordinating agency model, which I'll talk a little bit more about in just a minute. Under this approach, the city would issue a master lease or equivalent agreement to one coordinating agency or consortium. Key elements of the recommendation include a good neighbor agreement framework. Previously, we brought forward an example of a good neighbor agreement, and after a lot of feedback from the community, we have restructured it so that it is the responsibility of the coordinating agency to put together their own good neighbor agreement that fits what works best for their participants and for their own model. Others include a structured service category list, a defined grievance and appeals escalation pathway, a clear operational and financial responsibilities expectation. A full set of services and accountability recommendations is in attachment B in your packet there.
Noah, can you pull that microphone in just a little bit closer? I want to make sure people at home can hear you. Yes, yeah. Thank you.
Bye. Okay. The Good Neighbor Agreement and Community Accountability. So the committee recommends that a Good Neighbor Agreement be required of any operator at the site, designed and enforced by the coordinating agency rather than authored by the city. Through the RFP process, applicants would submit a Good Neighbor Agreement, or GNA, addressing the defined set of minimum categories with specific rules and languages left up to that organization. Required minimum categories include geographic scope, behavioral zones, cleanliness and environmental standards, site access, respectful behavior, safety, privacy, etc., all of that, and it is all also in your packet. The purpose is to reinforce that participants attend scheduled services and conduct themselves in a manner that respects both the neighborhood and the businesses and the residents in the area, but also are that they are being affirmed as really valuable members of the community, actively making Ashland a place that we all would like to live. On grievance and appeals, the committee is recommending a tiered escalation pathway. So first, provider level resolution, then the coordinating agency review, and third, City of Ashland review for contractual obligations and more compliance. The aim is to provide clear redress and address concerns at the appropriate level. In addition, the committee recommends that the RFP applicants propose self-accountability practices centered on pride and contribution and positive participation. Examples including things like monthly cleanup days or peer leadership opportunities or structured volunteer roles, recognition programs, things that highlight positive contributions and community involvement. On services, the committee compiled a recommendation list of service categories drawing on the region's community needs assessment, the Homeless Services Assessment Report, and the Continuum of Care Gaps Analysis. Categories range all over the place, and a full list is in Attachment C. The coordinating agency would be required to align on site providers with these categories to address the identified gaps. Under the coordinating agency model, a master lease or equivalent agreement would engage an organization or consortium to operate and manage the site. This is kind of that model that I was talking about there. The organization would oversee appointment scheduling, the Good Neighbor Agreement management, security services, office and administrative staff, and utilities and operating expenses. The concept is intended to separate more of that service provision and operations from the actual like contract work of the city, to kind of remove that burden while maintaining that compliance level there from the city. The committee is also recommending a structured letter of interest and RFP in a similar way to the development component. Any questions before I move on? Okay, additional charges. So on oversight, the committee recommends that ongoing operational oversight and future planning, adjustments, community feedback, et cetera, all be incorporated into the contract process and language, the actual city administration, the contract that is worked out with the organizations, rather than creating a standalone advisory committee, which was a question that was posed to the committee. For contract proposal and proposal review, the recommendation is that the Housing and Human Services Advisory Committee review and recommend direction as it relates to the partnerships at the site. In addition, a single point of contact should be designated with the city manager's office to facilitate and manage all contracting requirements and disputes. On the Client Bill of Rights, Code of Conduct, Behavioral Contract, and similar policies, the recommendation is not to author these at the city level, but again, to leave them at the level of the service provider, who would need to, during the RFP process, demonstrate established, legally compliant policies that covered the full list of things. The list there is in the slide, but it's also in the packet. The community engagement is also listed as one of the charters, and it was integrated throughout the entire process. And we included direct conversations with concerned citizens that held both totally opposing viewpoints, former ad hoc committee members, and a facilitated community town hall held at the site, 2200. Also, all committee meetings were publicly noticed, and we had an opportunity for public comment during each. Any future responsibilities delegated to the Housing and Human Services Advisory Committee, if that's a path that you should choose, those are also publicly noticed and would receive plenty of requests for participation in those. And finally, interim uses. So with respect to interim uses, the committee recommends that while the recommended work is being advanced, that the building continue to be used as a severe weather shelter and smoke shelter, given the uncertainty of a letter of interest and an RFP timeline, as well as the unpredictability of development sequencing once a partner is selected, that additional interim uses would likely require a lot of administrative coordination and infrastructure adjustments and things that are kind of beyond the scope of the committee in general. Additional interim uses would also require direction from the council, specifically talking about the night lawn or pallet shelters. This was expressly excluded from the scope of the committee, and I understand these are all being discussed in a totally different set of sessions. Okay. In closing, the committee's final recommendations are now before council in the total final written report. Appreciate the opportunity to present the recommendations before you. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for the good work that you've done. I know there were three of us who were liaisons, myself, Councillor Bloom, and Councillor Duquesne, who were working on this process and watching the hard work and participating in some of these working group meetings, and just watching you all go so deep into understanding what the need was in our community and what are the various models that might be out there that could fit this very unique property. So thank you so much for the comprehensive work that you have done here. Are there questions from council, of staff, or of our presenters? Councillor Duquesne.
One quick question and then a statement. So looking at this, very well put together, good job, great job. Very well put together. So just looking at where I wanted to make sure that this ad hoc committee's work does not supersede the work of the previous ad hoc committee. Is that correct, City Manager? Okay. And then I would just like to say thank you very much. It was great to be able to sit in with you and be the fly on the wall. You all had great questions and you all worked well together, and that's how we get things done, when we work together. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Kaplan?
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks Noah for this very thorough presentation of the report. I appreciate the work of the second ad hoc committee as well. I like everything that I see in the report. I'm broadly supportive. I like, in particular, the letter of interest request for proposal framework for coordinating service provider to provide all the services in the building, including shelter. And I'm hoping that we can move forward with that piece of it and with a quite expedited time frame so that we can be using the building as soon as possible. The other use of the site, I think, is a more complex, nuanced process. There were a lot of questions during the council discussion just now, and there are a lot of trade-offs. There's a wide range of possible uses, and you've explained why that was the case. But with all those different uses come different trade-offs, including, you talked even about workforce housing, which is quite different than permit supported housing and could have, different implications in terms of density and height. So trying to tease out what would be feasible, what the different developers might be interested in developing on that property, and then going out with it seems to be still a little complicated. I'm not sure I understand exactly how that's going to proceed. I imagine though that that's an iterative process, and there'll be some council involvement in that as well along the way. And then I think in terms of your suggestion for the Housing and Human Services Committee playing a role ongoing, I think is a good one. That is an appropriate place to have ongoing reports and a venue for public engagement, and really trying to make sure that we're locking this in consistent with some of the other housing and homeless services work that the city is doing. So thank you very much for that.
Councillor Hanson?
Thank you, Mayor. Great presentation, Noah, and I thank the committee, and I appreciate you coming up here and speaking as well. I'm supportive of everything I've heard tonight, and I applaud the efforts. Thank my colleagues and the rest of the ad hoc to get us this far. I'm really curious about the development of the other part of the property, and I look forward to seeing how it unfolds. My question is there anything this council can do to help navigate that or set up policy in front of RFP or develop plans or anything? And I'm sure it's already in the works. Staff is probably on it. I'm just curious, are we going to be seeing another resolution to peel off half of the property for land banking, or is there any kind of development kind of work that we can do to help these efforts?
Wait, let me take it. Okay. So I think based on the ad hoc's recommendation, if they're adopted by council, the idea is to put out kind of an LOI for the whole parcel to include the building, to see kind of the interest with potential community partners on what they would do with the site. I think it's recognized by the committee and the community that this is kind of an odd-shaped site. There's a limit to what development can look like given the location of the building that's already standing that we've invested in. And so I think it's kind of an exploratory discussion of what could partners do in the building. I think the goal of the city, as stated by the committee members, is to have a master lease where we have a partner who comes in, can utilize the building for services, but can also work to get other funding opportunities to have some development on the site for housing. And so I think that's our best next step.
Okay.
To see kind of where we could partner with service providers in the area to get a better idea. I think the city is well aware that we're not experts in service provision or development of this kind of housing, and so looking to get some feedback is an important next step that the committee is recommending.
That seems totally appropriate, and waiting and seeing what the next steps are from staff seems like this council's job right now.
Yeah, so we'll work to draft kind of an LOI, which is really like, hey, we have this land, here's what it looks like, here's the building, here's the parameters that the ad hoc committees have provided in terms of service provision. And we will reach out to service providers in the valley to get their letter, like, are you interested in potentially partnering on this? What would that look like? And then from there, we can kind of decide what an RFP would look like, if there's a partnership that can come out of that LOI, et cetera. And so that is what I would see next steps if council decides to move forward with these recommendations.
So, quick question. Then if we were to go out and maybe not find very much interest, the council could come back to this and look at the square footage numbers or change some of the policy elements, and we could shift that and go out and have additional conversations, right? I'm understanding that. Just, I think, mostly so that the public understands that if this pathway, if we find it difficult in some fashion or another, we can come back and adjust the master plan and move forward with a different idea.
Council can always change their mind, can always change the policy around the building.
And then a second question is, when we've talked about this building, we've also talked about it as in its use in terms of emergency management, and as a place that could be used in the event of a major disaster to distribute supplies, or even potentially to house wildfire firefighters, that kind of thing. We didn't ask that of the committee, and I know there were questions at the very beginning of what exactly does the city need in terms of that emergency services element. But I'm assuming, and I'm just checking my assumption, that we would include that in any sort of an RFP or letter of intent that says we're also looking to have this kind of secondary usage in an emergency.
Yeah, I would recommend, we've stated that this will be a severe weather shelter. We put in the infrastructure to allow for kind of emergency management on that site. So in our LOI, we would state that. And I think, we would probably put something like, if this presents a challenge or a problem, please state why. And so we can better understand if there are barriers with how this is. That may be a reason for council to change their policy, to change their plan. But if we just kind of don't ask the question of why that may or may not work, they may just opt out of responding. So I think it's important to put that information out there, but also be receptive to feedback around that.
Okay, great. Councilor Duquesne?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a really quick question. I wanted to ask if I could, I ask a question if this ad hoc proposal superseded the first one, and I was told no. So I just wanted to have clarity and make sure that goes on record.
So that's why the first one was included in the packet. So those two go together. Yeah.
Okay. We have one person who has signed up to speak with us about this issue this evening. Kate Hartzell, you'll have 3 minutes at the podium, following the same structure as you had earlier in the day. Go ahead.
The same structure?
In terms of the lighted display and the buzzers.
How will I know? Kate Hartzell, I live in Ashland. I wanted to before I do what I prepared, Councilor Duquesne asked about flooding, et cetera. Over 25 years ago, I toured a hotel in Seattle that had been renovated for their homeless population. They were a little bit ahead of us. They had designed their probably 5 or 6 story hotel to have central drainages in every room. It was a 1-room situation, and each one had a drainage place in the middle of it, and they had piped it. And so if you know what you're doing, if you know the population that you're building for, that stuff should be no-brainer. You should get somebody who knows that that's who you're building it for, and that's what's needed. I want to cite that in the ad hoc committee, there were numerous irregularities. I've come before you and talked about them, including my understanding after reading the minutes and talking to people on the committee that it's mostly the chair that authored the recommendation that are in front of you, and that there was no final vote. There was no vote of the full committee on the final draft. That's significant for me. What I heard the chair said, and I appreciate your work, but saying trust me to develop the recommendations that come to the council, raise questions about the legitimacy of the committee. I recommend not rechartering this ad hoc committee for that and other reasons. If an advisory committee is used, please implement and build transparent guide structures around it. I think in what I read, it suggests new staff needed. I'm not quite sure I follow that, but maybe you do. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. Aura and the Night Lawn are right now a revolving door. The missing bridge in town right now is, the missing link right now is bridge and transitional housing. Not low barrier, but people who get in there and are case managed and move forward. Your golden egg right now is 2,200. That's what you got. Federal funding is down. You're not going to get another shot to put the missing puzzle piece into the dilemma that we're all facing with homelessness right now. So I want to recommend highest and best use. Build what's missing, not what's easy. 80%, even 60% affordable housing. You have providers here in the Valley that are already doing that. Reach farther and ask for more. Eric's letter or email to you talked about encouraging density. That's what the state is encouraging because of climate change. Tiny houses are cool, but those in boarding rooms are not dense. I would take them off your list. Remove the 24-month limit to the housing that is built. I've been working with people who are homeless right now to sign them up for general assistance. General assistance is for people who don't have Social Security. Is that mine? Did I get 3 minutes?
You did. Yeah, let's go ahead and have another 20 seconds.
Thank you. General assistance will allow people to get almost $800 for monthly rent while they wait for their Social Security money. If that takes longer than 24 months and you've been able to house them in this housing, they're out of luck. So I would suggest removing that, remove the square footage, let who comes to you with a proposal for what you need, give them the flexibility that they need. There's nothing wrong with 180 square feet. The behavior contract that was in the first draft is discriminatory and violates civil rights. I appreciate that that was softened. If people break the law, arrest them. You know, we don't need special laws for special people. I would encourage you away from that. Thank you.
Thank you. So if there are no further questions of staff or our presenters, the floor is open for a motion. Councillor Bloom.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the recommendations as presented by the 2200 Ashland Street Ad Hoc Committee.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Councillor Bloom.
Yes, thank you so much, all of you, for doing this. Kathy, Noah, Jason, Debbie, Kristen, you put a significant amount of time into a very difficult issue, and I appreciate the effort to balance the neighborhood concerns, service provider realities, and the needs of the people who may be using this site. I really cannot thank you enough. Great work, and I'm sure, well, I know, Noah, you're on a committee, but I encourage everybody else on the ad hoc committee to get involved because your experience is invaluable.
Councillor Hansen.
Nothing but gratitude to add, really. I mean, this is a missing link in our community, and it's great to see after a rocky start and kind of a rushed, opportunistic, move. We do have something really special here, and I'm glad to see the recommendations. I just have a lot of gratitude for all of you. Thank you so much.
Councillor Duquesne.
Thank you, Mayor. I like to thank everyone who had hands on this, and I would like to request that this might be done at this part, but everyone who had hands on this and took time out of their day and life to put this together, get on another committee. We need great volunteers, so don't stop now. Thank you.
Maybe you can have one night off. I just also wanted to say that it's been a pleasure working with this group of people. I think the leadership of both the committee and the working groups have been an exemplary illustration of community members stepping forward, doing their work in the full view of the public with full transparency, and also staying focused on the goal and making sure that the entirety of the committee is behind the recommendations that come forward. I saw that in person when I was involved in those conversations, and I was just very, very honored to be part of that conversation and part of this good work. It's super exciting. I cannot wait to see what comes out of this and the kind of responses, hopefully, that we are going to get from our community partners. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Sherrill.
Yes.
Dale.
Yes.
Bloom.
Yes.
Duquesne.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Kaplan.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are now to the Citizens Budget Committee appointment. Sabrina?
Yes, we have had an appointed member withdraw, and so we're going to go through and do another vote to appoint another member to the Budget Committee. So you have been given ballots. So if you can pick your top choice for the position, that would be much appreciated, and we will tally those up as we did last time. We will do as many rounds as we need to get a majority.
Teacher.
It's going to not take any time. I thought about our last meeting. This should be faster. No, yeah, that's really late. Okay, so per state law, we're going to read these out loud. So Councilmember Duquesne has Avis as her first choice. Councillor Hanson has Wertheiser as his first choice. Mayor Graham has Wertheiser as her first choice. Councillor Bloom has Wertheiser as his first choice. Councillor Dale has Wertheiser as his first choice. And Councillor Sherrill has Wertheiser as his first choice. I am not great at math, but it looks like... What about Councillor Kaplan?
Oh.
It's in the chat.
Where?
In the chat.
It's in the chat. We will read that out loud. Wertheiser. Okay. Wertheiser obviously will be appointed. So thank you for your vote tonight for a term ending in 2029.
And so we need an official motion. So the floor is open for a motion. Councillor Bloom?
I move to appoint Noah Wertheiser to the Citizens Budget Committee for a term to end June 30th, 2029.
Is there a second? Councillor Bloom?
Congrats, Noah. Well deserved.
Councillor Hanson? Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Sherrill.
Yes.
Dale.
Yes.
Bloom.
Yes.
Duquesne.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Kaplan.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you to all of the people who have stepped up to serve on the Citizens Budget Committee, and congratulations, Noah. I'll put in a similar plug as Councillor Duquesne did earlier. Anyone who has stepped forward to serve on the Budget Committee who was not selected in this round, please stay involved. Please get involved in other committees. We will always need your help somewhere. Okay, we are now to the last official item on our agenda under new business, which is the request for council to consider aiding Newport in fighting against the detention center that they have there. You have the information in your packet, and we have with us this evening Mayor Kaplan from the city of Newport. He is here to answer any particular questions. Mayor Kaplan, I wonder if you might come on and we have the packet information, but I wonder if you might just come on and give us the broad strokes for both the council and the people who are watching from home. Oh, we can't hear you. I think you're muted. You've been very patient. I've seen you there for a while tonight.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Very good.
Okay.
And we can see you too.
Nice. Okay, where this, I think folks would generally know what our situation was, but just to sum, beginning at the very end of October, beginning of November, our community became aware that through various events, one being the removal of a search and rescue helicopter that had previously been a Coast Guard helicopter that was located at the Newport Airport, to the showing up a letter that came from a contractor on behalf of some federal agency, we were never told who, that wished to lease 4 acres of land adjacent to the hangar that the helicopter had been in. And then over time, us seeing ads on the internet looking for detention workers and health workers to work at a site in Newport, as well as requests that we're finding going out to hotels in our area looking to lease as many as 200 rooms. We knew something was up, began meeting with our Congress people, both Senator's office, Congresswoman Hoyle, Governor's office, DOJ, Oregon DOJ, and a number of other state agencies, our state representatives. No one could get an answer from the feds as to what they were doing. We subsequently, because we had no way to confirm what was going on other than we're not stupid, we held a meeting, a community meeting, our city council did, to gauge, to inform the community as to what we know. Rumors were flying all over, and we wanted to make sure that, one, we didn't have a lot of information, but that we were able to be clear with our community as to what we knew, what we didn't, and what was being observed. On 2 days' notice, 800 people showed up at City Hall, and we're a city of about 10,000. I'll try to make this not a long story, because I can go on. There was overwhelming community response to that. One, that we needed the helicopter back, and two, that the community was opposed to the siting of a detention facility in Newport for many reasons, and not, for the most part, not having to do with immigration policy, but having to do with the survival of our city and our area. Frankly, Newport is the gateway to the Central Coast. Our main economy is based on tourism. It's based on fishing, and the potential for an ICE facility in Newport, one, would have hurt a large part of our workforce are Latino, and not illegal, but our community was scared. We feared that as a tourist economy, that the siting of a detention facility would have tremendous harm to our brand, if I will, and to our economy and people. Interestingly, we were receiving emails from not only all over the state, but from many parts of the country, saying if people at that point thought we were doing it, saying if your city does this, I will never set foot there again. And that was, I didn't anticipate that, but we took note. So we felt we had to move quickly. Also, we currently have major infrastructure issues in terms of water, wastewater, drinking water, and a facility that the other part that we were hearing about was that they were trying to, there were requests of local sanitary companies to haul something like 10,000 pounds of human waste a week, which takes a lot of humans. So we made a decision that the fate of our community was in our hands. We had to act, and we went and decided that we needed to fight. And to do that, we hired a law firm, Stoll Byrne, who were did a great job for us. But to go into federal court is a major enterprise and has cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, which we took out of contingency. Again, nobody budgeted for this. We didn't expect it, and we just had to do it. And so we have reached out at this point. We've held them off. The court case is still ongoing, but we believe it will be resolved fairly soon. And it's simply, we've had to take a lot of money out of our contingency, and we feel that we've represented certainly our area, and we've represented the state. Our partner in the litigation was the state DOJ, who have been terrific in working with us. So that's why I've reached out.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. So Councilor Bloom and I discussed this and put it in front of the council. I'll speak to my thoughts about it, and then I'll hand it over to Councilor Bloom. I want to be clear as well that this is not, in my mind, about immigration policy. It's about a particular agency and how it's been operating around the country, and what the people of Newport have experienced with a lack of transparency, no information about what they're actually trying to build in a local government setting and with a community, and then just what I have seen of what these detention centers are becoming. Leads me from a personal standpoint to say, and from a constitutional standpoint, the oath of office I took, that this is one of the places that I might be able to keep that oath. And I also think of it in a similar way. When we have trouble as small communities, we reach out to each other, and there's always a mutual aid. I remember we sent our electric trucks up to Springfield when they had trouble, and then we have mutual aid, and people come to our assistance when we need help. And I think the kind of thing that Newport has experienced is one of the things that happens to smaller communities that an agency like what we've been seeing with ICE, they can assume that they can roll small communities because they're small. They don't have an unlimited budget. They don't have millions of dollars in contingency to fight. And so that's my purpose for putting this in front of the council. Councilor Bloom?
Well, I was going to start talking about ICE as an agency, and you talked about that. Then I was going to talk about mutual aid, and you talked about that. So I don't have a lot more to add, but this is, in my opinion, very clearly federal overreach. And I will also reiterate, yes, we took an oath of office, and that we need to fight back against this, and we need to work together to do it, because Oregon is a great state, and we've got some great communities here, and Newport's certainly one of them.
Are there any questions of Mayor Kaplan? Councilor Dale.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Mayor, for joining us tonight. And like the Mayor and Councilor Bloom said, this could happen in anybody's backyard in this state. But I know you touched on it in the beginning when you first joined us, but I'd really like to just really kind of nail the point home. I'd like to know, if you wouldn't mind, sir, the specific responses that you've gotten from our United States Congress people and our state representatives relative to this, and our AG as well. We can municipally GoFundMe and crowdsource, and we should do so. I mean, that's what we do, right? That we support each other, as the mayor had said, and Councilor Bloom. However, this is something where this is a pretty large lift. And again, we help, and as we say in this community too, and this goes back, and most people, we love and care for each other. And that extends beyond municipal boundaries. But I'd really like you to put into sharp relief what our United States, our federal Congress people, and our state representatives have communicated to you regarding this specific ask.
Okay, and thank you that's a good question. And again, thank you so much for offering us this opportunity. And it's really been a pleasure to observe your process. Our federal senators, congresswomen, have been with us from the get-go. The problem is that all of them have made inquiries to ICE, DHS, the Coast Guard. They could not get answers. It was outrageous, the fact that that U.S. senators could not get at times couldn't get a return phone call. They kept us informed. They stayed informed. They kept checking in with us. Senator Wyden has been here several times. Senator Merkley has been here at least once, and their staff have been. Senator Wyden is going to be in town again on this week, and so I've been very grateful for the kind of support that we've gotten from them, and that they have. But the craziness has been the absolute refusal of the federal agencies to respond. And it's one of the reasons we went to court was to force discovery. That a judge had to force answers. It took 3 months before we officially were told by ICE that in fact they had been trying to develop a detention facility in Newport. And let me repeat that: 3 months before we got the courtesy of being told what they were trying to do in our community. I'm not sure if that's what you're asking, if I'm responding well to your question, so let me know.
Well, and I appreciate that, and thank you very much. But also just to kind of add, and again, I sure hope this council knows what to do here, and I'm pretty sure we do. But I just also want to know that we can, as we know, we can talk certainly. But have they committed any funds from the federal or the state level?
No, the federal. I don't know where they would get funds from. That this is not something covered by FEMA. So they've not. So we've not been able to. The state has committed a tremendous amount of resource to us in terms of DOJ, who have been, as well as other state agencies, but they have been. They are with us as in our lawsuit, and have been there all the way through, as well as they are also joined with the law. There's a separate lawsuit around the helicopter, which was initiated by a local nonprofit, our Fishermen's Wives, who all DOJ have also signed on with, as the county. So there's 2 separate cases. But no, we've not been able to get any financial support there.
Well, thank you, sir. I really look forward to our collective local municipalities leading by example to our state and federal legislators.
So
me too.
So the way that the pathway that we would have to make a contribution is through our council budget. So the other budgets inside the general fund are appropriated to the uses of those elements. And so, Sabrina, can you tell us, of course, our first fiscal year of the budget, the biennial budget, ends at the end of June. I think we've pretty much spent most of what we expect to spend, unless, again, unless there is a sister city trip that anybody is intending to make. So what do we have at this point? And is that 10 to 15 across the biennium, or are we looking at it 10 to 15 before the end of this fiscal year? For this fiscal year. Okay. I wanted to make sure we had that information. So, Mayor Kaplan, we have a council rule here that if we go past 9:30, we have to have a motion on the table. So I just wanted to set that up so that we would have the information we needed. Are there other questions of Mayor Kaplan or of our staff? Councilor Dale.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And certainly cognizant of the time. I just wanted to, you'll excuse me, Mayor Kaplan, while we do a little bit of housekeeping here. So I just need to talk to Johan, just if you wouldn't mind. Is there anything that you see from a legality standpoint or IGAs or anything superficially that would concern you at all from a legal standpoint from this council moving forward with this motion?
I took a look at a template IGA that I think it's fine. I mean, it's essentially just a grant.
Okay, thank you.
And another follow-up question, Sabrina. So I know that we haven't quite finished the books for the fiscal year yet. If we were to put an amount forward today that put us over when all of the accounting is done, it wouldn't be by much. It would be within a couple $1,000s. would that be then absorbed into the next year of that? So we would just start the next year a little bit lower, and it would affect the actual biennial budget. Okay, so we can know that if we're selecting a number. Okay, great. Any other questions? Councilor Chevelle.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe more for legal too. Like just with this administration and some of the repercussions that we've already seen, like do we run any risk of getting on some kind of blacklist and getting financing pulled or getting funding or low rate loans for our water treatment plant? Will this affect us in any negative way at all?
I don't know that we can answer that.
Do you feel, as like our city attorney, do you feel like there's a risk, or if you could give it a percentage?
I can't give it a percentage. I'd say anecdotally, given what I've seen from this administration, if you tend to not go along with their plan, they look for ways to punish you. I mean, I don't know how they would do that in this case, but like, you see attempts from the Department of Transportation saying, if you use DEI language in your bylaws, you're not eligible for this grant because you're not complying with federal directives, that sort of thing. So if the way I could see it potentially playing out is federal grant money being denied to people who have participated in a lawsuit against the federal government.
Or the opportunity zone that we talked about today, not moving forward.
Councilor Bloom.
I would just say that we are a deeply democratic city in a deeply democratic state. We're already on a blacklist.
Yes.
Okay, so if there are no further questions, the floor is open for a motion. Councilor Bloom?
Yes, I direct the city manager to enter into an IGA with Newport and provide monetary support of $15,000 from the mayor and council budget.
Second.
Councilor Bloom?
Go get them.
Councilor Duquesne?
Much needed. I'm so happy you're here, Mayor Kaplan, because I believe when we work together, we get things done. And when we work together, there is no fear of repercussions because we're strong. I've had many of my friends go to Newport and support what you're doing, and I've seen people come far and wide for this. So I am behind you at 199%. So I second that proudly. Thank you.
Councilor Hansen?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I fully support these efforts. It was brought up in the study session agenda yesterday. We just didn't get to it. Our city council has a training and budget, and I think it's great that we're using this unspent money to support Newport. And I'm sorry you're having to go through this. I'm sorry that the people that are on the ground are having to deal with ice. And this is a little something we can do. So I appreciate our leadership jumping in here, and I support this 110%. Luckily, I didn't go to a training or a conference this year, so you can have my full allocation.
Exactly.
Councilor Kaplan? There you go. We have two Kaplans.
Yes, I'll,
No relation.
Yes, thank you. No relation. Thank you, Mayor Kaplan. I just want to echo what everyone else has said. I'm strongly in support of this. I didn't use the training or travel budget either, so it's my full allocation. And I wish you all the best and for all of us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts or deliberation? Roll call, please.
Sherrill.
Yes.
Dale.
Yes.
Bloom.
Yes.
Duquesne.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Kaplan.
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you again, Mayor Kaplan, for not only coming to talk with us this evening, but for offering a way for us to help. One of the things that I think is particularly demoralizing right now is to see things happening and not having an open pathway to assist. There is a reason for the saying that there is safety in numbers. And that's how we respond. That's how we actually protect ourselves, is by sticking together, especially as small communities. And I am so proud of our council right now. Thank you all for your good work. Thank you for your good work, and please send our best regards to your team. We will be cheering you on.
If I may, just
Yes.
thank you from the bottom of my heart. Mayor Graham, you have just reached out, and your leadership and the leadership of your council This is who we are in Oregon, and we've got to stick together. And you've stood up, so thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we are at 9:29. So I don't think we have time for any liaison reports this evening, but the floor is open for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned.